Chapter 1854. Is Little Rice Dumpling going to challenge the Ghost King? Hurry up and give Little Rice Dumpling some monthly votes to transform into Sword Chi. The ghostly Chi was ghastly and blazing like a volcano erupting. The shocking momentum was like the raging waves of the sea, causing the heavens and the earth to shake. Chen Zong could feel that in an instant, an extremely tyrannical aura was pressing down on him from all directions. It was as if he had become the most unwelcome person in Ghost City and was being ostracized. Compared to before, it was like a spring breeze drizzle had turned into a violent storm, becoming even more tyrannical and shocking. Malicious intent. The shocking malicious intent attacked wildly. A sense of danger that originated from the depths of his heart grew and spread out like a gurgling spring. However, compared to the previous crisis, this crisis was not as intense. The Ghost King. Chen Zong knew that the Ghost King had come. In an instant, a black light shot out, and a pair of scarlet eyes filled with malice stared at him. The moment they met eyes with Chen Zong, a will filled with terrifying might charged over like breaking through dry weeds. Last time, this pair of eyes made Chen Zong feel as if he had been struck by lightning, and his spirit sea almost collapsed. However, this time, Chen Zong's spirit sea was much more resilient as the might of the heart sword Dao intent had reached 100%. He could already withstand it. Moreover, with the 100% heart sword Dao intent guarding it, his spirit sea was several times more stable. He could completely withstand the impact of this pair of evil eyes' tyrannical will and not be shaken in the slightest. After the pair of evil eyes stared at him, a beam of black light condensed with astonishing might appeared. It was like a black bolt of lightning that swiftly and silently tore through the air. Before this, Chen Zong had to use all his means and pay the price of a heavily injured arm to barely block this attack. However, it was different this time. Chen Zong's eyes stared at the lightning-like beam of black light. His eyes focused slightly, and he saw the lightning-like beam of black light clearly. In an instant, the 100% heart sword Dao intent turned into a beam of light and instantly pierced into the 9th grade saint artifact in his hand. The sword trembled, and as the sword light pulsed, it emitted a sword cry that seemed to originate from the void. It was peerlessly sharp. Heart intent sword, chain heartbeat. With a slash of his sword, countless sword lights, with the sword hilt as the starting point, drew a perfect trajectory and shot out from all directions, directly attacking the extremely condensed black light. Originally, the power of the black light was very condensed. Previously, Chen Zong had used all kinds of methods, but he could not break it at all. At most, he could only weaken it slightly, like scraping a layer of powder on the surface of a stone. At that level, it was simply impossible to truly weaken the opponent's attack. Even if both sides had the same level of power, if one side was as loose as sand while the other side was as solid as a rock, when they collided, the sand would scatter. The rock would at most be damaged on the surface, but the inside would still be intact. Countless sword lights struck the same spot of the black light, instantly destroying it. Now that the heart sword Dao intent had reached 100% perfection, Chen Zong had also grasped the advanced technique of transforming the sword into silk. Transforming the sword into silk naturally meant that one's power was incomparably condensed. As the black light dissipated, the Ghost King who unleashed this attack was shocked. He stared at the golden sun above the human's head with a grave expression. If that was not the flower of the supreme realm, then what was it? It seemed to have exceeded his understanding, and he felt that it could pose a threat to him. In such a short time, this human's power had increased by so much. As expected of someone who was favored by great fortune. If this continued, perhaps after a period of time, his power would surge again. Kill. The Ghost King's killing intent grew stronger. The two flowers of the supreme realm above his head appeared again, and he used all his power. Of the two flowers of the supreme realm, one was blood red. It was extremely condensed, as if it was a real blood flower, and it emitted an extremely shocking aura. It was as if a flood of lava was contained within it, and it fluctuated continuously, as if it could explode at any time. Could destroy the world. The other brown flower of the Supreme Realm was fainter, and it was just a shadow. However, to be able to condense the flower of the Supreme Realm meant that one had developed that aspect to the extreme, and he only needed to continue condensing it. In the battle that day, if the Ghost King's 2 flowers of the Supreme Realm had been fully condensed and materialized, his battle prowess would have been even more shocking. Chen Zong and Heavenly God Gong would probably not have been able to defeat him. Of the 2 flowers of the Supreme Realm, one was fully condensed, and the other was just condensed. Such battle prowess did not give Chen Zong a strong sense of danger. This meant that he could already contend with the Ghost King. A sword strike had shattered his opponent's attack. This was proof that he could not do anything to the Ghost King in the past. That sword strike had also boosted Chen Zong's confidence greatly. In the first battle, he was in a very sorry state, and he had no choice but to flee in a panic. In the second battle, he had joined forces with Heavenly God Gong. In that battle, he had used all his techniques, but he was still severely injured. In the end, he had to rely on the power of this world's will to defeat the Ghost King. This was the third battle, but he could already rely on his own power to fight the Ghost King. This was his improvement. Intense sword style. Everlasting illusion. The sword stabbed out, and the sword light was blurry like a dream. Even the Ghost King's powerful will couldn't help but be affected. The Tao intent of the Heart Sword at full power was even more shocking. Vaguely, the Ghost King seemed to have returned to the battlefield of blood and fire, experiencing countless battles and massacres. The Ghost Claw tore through the air, the pitch-black claw energy was extremely condensed, the sound was faint, and the sky was shattered. Chain heartbeat. With a swing of his sword, the trajectory of the sword spread out and shattered the Ghost Claw. This sword strike was truly suitable for breaking moves. As for the sword move, that was a combination of the wind, fire, and lightning Tao insights. Chen Zong didn't intend to execute it because its might wasn't sufficient to threaten the Ghost King. Only the Heart Sword Tao intent of the Heart Sword could threaten the Ghost King and make him wary. Fight, fight, fight. Sure enough, improving the might of a top-grade Tao insight to the Perfection Realm was equivalent to condensing a flower of extreme. After the 9th-grade Saint artifact was infused with the Tao intent of the Heart Sword, its might had greatly increased, reaching the level of a half-god artifact. The sword light was endless, and the sword shadows were endless. Every strike was in an arc, but the speed of the sword was several times faster than a straight line. It constantly attacked the Ghost King from all directions. The Ghost King's claws were extremely hard and sharp, as tough as a half-god artifact. They collided with Chen Zong's sword time and time again, bursting into countless sparks, and the sound of metal clashing reverberated endlessly. The more he fought, the more satisfied Chen Zong became. It was different from the feeling of being suppressed before. He could freely swing his sword. His sword intent became more condensed, and even his will became more condensed. His will was like a piece of thick iron that was constantly being hammered, and its impurities were removed bit by bit, becoming like fine iron. Will was a part of the spirit, qi, and spirit. By tempering one's will to the extreme, one could condense a flower of extreme. If he could condense a flower of extreme, coupled with the Tao intent of the Heart Sword at the Perfection Realm, it would be equivalent to having 2 flowers of extreme. His battle prowess would increase by quite a bit. However, condensing a flower of extreme was extremely difficult. Unable to do anything to this human, the Ghost King was instantly enraged. The power of the entire Ghost City became restless, and they all turned into huge waves that surged forward like a raging tide. Boom, boom, boom. The Ghost King's aura skyrocketed under the dark and gloomy waves. Shortly after, waves of gloomy storms were swallowed into the Ghost King's body. Its body also expanded by 1/2 meter in an instant, and the armor on its body seemed to be about to burst from the swelling muscles. Traces of red light spread out from the cracks of the armor, and an astonishing blazing aura filled the air, as if it contained magma and fire. Aura. The Ghost King's aura skyrocketed by 30%. It was obvious that it had used some special method. The reason why it hadn't used this method to increase its battle prowess before was because of the environment. Now that it was in the Ghost City, which was the territory of the Ghost Clan, there was a massive amount of Ghost Clan power permeating the air. Chen Zong's expression became more serious, but the light in his eyes became more and more concentrated. There was a faint trace of excitement in the depths of his heart. Fanatical excitement, shocking battle intent, soaring sword intent, and ice-cold calmness. The realm of freedom. Without hesitation, Chen Zong activated the realm of freedom and grasped all his power and the surroundings. Heart domain. In an instant, the heart domain was also compressed by Chen Zong to a radius of 10 meters. The Ghost Clan's power that constantly surged forward and oppressed him was offset one after another, and it couldn't really affect Chen Zong. Fight. The Ghost King attacked. With one attack, it instantly tore through the void and attacked. Compared to the previous silent attacks, this attack was shocking. Accompanied by the heavy roars of evil spirits, it impacted the Ghost Clan's spiritual will, and its power and destructive power increased by more than 50%. Chen Zong's expression didn't change. His figure drifted, and his yin and yang seamless was indefinite, turning reality into illusion. Together with the sword intent current, he guided and diverted the force, avoiding this extremely powerful attack. A terrifying huge crack was directly torn open in the dark void. Strong winds roared and fierce thunder rumbled. Chen Zong glanced at it. Under the realm of freedom, his mind was calm, and he was not affected at all. Using the yin and yang seamless body technique to the extreme, it was as if he was drifting on the edge of the void. His body constantly alternated between illusion and reality, making it even harder for the Ghost King to grasp. Chain heartbeat, endless heart illusion, infinite heart destruction. The three sword moves of the sword intent current were used alternately, attacking the Ghost King from all directions. The power of each sword was extremely powerful. If the Ghost King's will wasn't very condensed, it wouldn't be able to resist at all. Even so, sword wounds kept appearing on its body. However, once the wounds appeared, it only needed to absorb the energy here to quickly recover. Human, this is my territory. This little bit of injury has no effect on your majesty at all. The Ghost King waved his claws around while howling out in rage. Suddenly, the ghost claw swept across the sky, spreading in all directions, covering everything. The horn on the Ghost King's forehead flashed violently. The red light shone and quickly spread to the tip of the horn, condensing into a point. Shooting! A hair-like red light shot out from the horn in an instant. Fast. Extremely fast. Unparalleled speed. Even with the combination of the realm of freedom and the realm of heart, which gave him almost absolute control of the surroundings, he could only vaguely catch a trace of this red light. The red light was extremely condensed. Wherever it passed, the void was directly erased. It wasn't torn apart, but erased. These were two different concepts. It was as if it had disappeared directly, and there was no way to restore it. Creepy. Extreme danger. Chapter 1855. A speck of crimson light seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth. Its aura was extremely terrifying and shocking. He couldn't dodge it. Not only was it too fast, but it also followed the ultimate mystery of heaven and earth. He couldn't dodge it. Even if he dodged it, he would still have to face the attack. The attack was like a maggot in one's bones. It condensed an extremely terrifying power that penetrated and destroyed everything. The light of destruction. This was an innate ability that middle-rank ghost generals could master. However, when it was used by a Ghost King, it was countless times more terrifying. This was a trump card. As soon as this move was used, a sinister smile appeared on the Ghost King's face. He was smiling. Even if his opponent was also a Ghost King, he wouldn't be able to dodge such a move. He would either have to face it head-on or take it head-on. The light of destruction gathered all his power. If a Ghost King of the same level was hit, he would also die. Danger. The extreme danger made Chen Zong's eyebrows twitch wildly. His head seemed to be about to explode, and his heart was beating uncontrollably. This was palpitations. Extremely intense palpitations. He felt his mind trembling wildly. The speed of his heartbeat also exceeded his body's limit, as if it was about to explode. The heart sword Dao Will that condensed on the longsword in his hand also seemed to be pulled and vibrated violently. The longsword could no longer withstand the power of the heart sword Dao Will. It instantly shattered into countless pieces and then turned into powder. The heart sword Dao Will was condensed. In Chen Zong's hand, it vibrated at an astonishingly high frequency and turned into an extremely blurry sword shadow. The void around the sword shadow was completely torn apart, and wisps of fine darkness appeared. Countless traces connected into one, and the aura it emitted was extremely shocking. His heart was beating so wildly that it was about to explode. His spirit ocean was vibrating so violently that it seemed to be about to collapse. The three formed a connection. A mysterious feeling spread out. The power of the Taichu sword origin technique also surged endlessly and poured into the heart sword Dao Will without reservation. It turned into a sword light and then converged on the sword intent. Extreme. Extreme power. Extreme state of mind. Extreme sword. Slash. In an instant, Chen Zong swung his sword and slashed out. Without a sound, the void was directly erased. Just like that beam of light of destruction. A silver-white sword light pierced through the air. In an instant, the silver-white sword radiance collided with the crimson light of destruction. After a slight pause, it was as if the world was about to explode. Terrifying energy poured out in torrent. It was as if the stars had exploded, creating terrifying rings of stars. Rumbling sounds shook the heavens and the earth. Under the impact of the star rings, the void cracked inch by inch. Countless cracks spread out rapidly, covering a radius of 100 meters. Then, they shattered, forming a huge spatial crack that was 100 meters wide, like a black hole. Rumble! Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the depths of the black hole. Strong winds blew and roared, full of extreme power. The aura emitted by the black hole made Chen Zong and the Ghost King extremely shocked. With this kind of power, the two of them would die if they came into contact with it. They would be reduced to nothingness in an instant. Not even their bones would remain, and their souls would scatter. Retreat. Without hesitation, the Ghost King retreated immediately. This was the Ghost City. He had a natural advantage. Even so, he was slightly affected. One of his arms was reduced to nothingness silently. A sense of danger that was 100 times stronger than before swept over. Chen Zong could no longer maintain his carefree state. But at the moment of danger, Chen Zong's figure disappeared immediately. The 100-meter spatial crack did not continue to expand. Instead, it continued to devour the surging energy in the surroundings. It healed bit by bit until it finally disappeared. The Purgatory Ghost King was extremely shocked. He was even more bewildered. It seemed that the human was dead, but it also seemed that he was still alive. If he was dead, it would be fine. If he was still alive, it would be very troublesome. In a flash, the Ghost King immediately went to the Purgatory Ghost Gate. He absorbed a large amount of energy from the Purgatory Ghost Gate. The arm that was reduced to nothingness grew back little by little. On Bewildering Light Island, a figure suddenly appeared. Chen Zong's face was pale. The moment he appeared, he staggered and almost fell. Not only was his face pale, but his eyes were also filled with exhaustion. His robe was tattered and there were cuts on his skin. Traces of blood seeped out. Just a little bit more. He was so close to being devoured by the spatial crack. In an instant, he shattered and disappeared without a trace. Even the unbreakable golden body could not withstand the terrifying power of the spatial crack. It was too frightening. Fortunately, he had the bewildering light island as his escape route. Otherwise, he would have been in extreme danger. The danger was not the Ghost King, but the spatial crack created by the collision of the two ultimate moves. Even though the Ghost King's body was so strong, he could not withstand it at all. Just by being affected, one of his arms was reduced to nothingness. The depleted energy seeped out bit by bit like water. It gradually spread throughout his body and recovered. The countless cracks on his body also disappeared and were healing. After a period of time, Chernzong's face regained its color. The exhaustion in his eyes also disappeared. He was full of energy. This time, he had taken the initiative to enter the territory of Grand Luo City. Not only had his fourth body-refining battle star turned golden, but he had also lit up his fifth battle star. Even his sixth battle star had appeared. It was now bronze. This also meant that his body-refining battle strength had reached the elite 6-star level. It was a great improvement. In addition, he had used the Ghost King's strength to temper himself and the Heart Sword Dao intent. He had further stimulated the potential and power of the Heart Sword Dao intent and increased the power of the Sword intent current. This battle had allowed Chernzong to truly unearth the power of the Heart Sword Dao intent and make it even more powerful. Moreover, he could completely control it and bring out its full power. The three ultimate moves of the Sword intent current had all reached a perfect state. It was also because of this that he could continuously injure the Purgatory Ghost King. Unfortunately, the Purgatory Ghost King's body was too strong. He had already reached the level of condensing the Supreme Flower. Therefore, some of his injuries were not fatal. In addition, he was in the Ghost City, the territory of the Purgatory Ghost King. He had the geographical advantage. Once he was injured, he could quickly recover. Even if he fought until the end, he could not kill the Purgatory Ghost King. He could not even injure the Purgatory Ghost King. As his thoughts flowed, the scene of the previous battle replayed in his mind. It was very detailed. It was like a bystander recording it. Then came the final strike. That strike had completely exceeded Chernzong's consciousness and control. If it had been any other time, he would not have been able to use that strike. However, under the terrifying destructive light of the Purgatory Ghost King, it was as if his subconscious had exploded. He had gathered all of his strength to use that strike. Closing his eyes, Chernzong carefully recalled the feeling when he had swung out that sword. The Heart Sword Dao intent, mind, will, and strength were all mobilized in an instant. They were all raised to the limit and condensed into one. It was with an unparalleled will that he had unleashed that strike. Carefully recalling it again and again, Chernzong felt as if he had broken through something. It was as if he had opened a new door and seen a new path. Time passed slowly. The sun rose and the moon set. Chernzong stood motionless on bewildering Light Island. He closed his eyes and quietly comprehended. 3 days passed. Chernzong's eyes were still closed. However, the Heart Sword Dao intent had solidified in an instant. It appeared in his hand. He swung his sword. There was no technique. It was a very simple strike. It looked like it was played down. It was like a child waving a tree branch randomly. However, there was a strange power quietly gathering. The power was invisible and colorless. It was also silent. However, it was very shocking. The sword was casually swung out in a crooked manner. In an instant, the void was torn open. It was a shocking sight. He put away his sword and continued to comprehend. After a while, he swung his sword again. He continued to comprehend, adjust, and search for that feeling. It was a feeling that had reached the pinnacle. In that state, his mind was invincible. After a long time, Chernzong suddenly opened his eyes. A sharp cold light shot out from the depths of his eyes. It seemed to tear the void apart. He exhaled a long breath. It was like an extremely shocking sword aura that tore everything apart. His breath was like a sword. This power was extremely terrifying. An 8-star combat strength could not take it head-on. The result would be to be pierced and torn apart. I understand now, Chernzong said slowly. My heart is strong and my will is strong. Only then can I gather all my strength into one and transform it into a peerless sword aura. That sword was the fusion of the 3 ultimate moves of the will sword style. That sword was also the fusion of all my strength. It was the ultimate killing move. When that sword is used, there is no chance of survival. Chernzong's eyes became sharper. If that sword had not collided with the Ghost King's light of destruction, it might have been able to kill the Ghost King if it had hit the latter directly. Because that sword was a sword that used up all his strength. He could only use it once in a short period of time. He gathered all his strength and attacked without any hesitation. He did not care about his own safety. How terrifying was the power of such an extreme sword! It was obvious just by looking at the 100-meter-long crack in the void created by the collision with the light of destruction. Usually, even if Chernzong used the infinite heart destruction sword, it would only create a crack that was a few meters long at most. In that case, I will name this sword Move Lifeless Vacuum Slash. When it is used, the void will be torn apart. It will be a fatal blow, Chernzong said to himself. Then, what he needed to do next was to control this sword move. Even if it was only one strike, he needed to really control it. Then, he could only use it when he was in danger. It could be a trump card that could turn the tide of the battle. Then, Chernzong stayed on Bewildering Light Island and continued to practice his sword move. Vibration. He imagined himself facing an extreme danger, just like when he faced the light of destruction from the Ghost King. Only under that kind of danger could he raise his essence, chi, and spirit to the extreme. Only then could he concentrate his mind to the extreme. Heart Sword Dao Will vibrated, his mind vibrated, and the Taichu Sword Origin vibrated. Chapter 1856. Within the boundary of Tai Luo City, the huge ghost city that had been damaged by the fierce battle between Chernzong and the Ghost King had already been repaired. The Purgatory Ghost Gate had once again expanded from a radius of 10 meters to 15 meters. The Ghost Hunter's power that was swallowed and spat out at every moment was even more vigorous. It poured in like a torrent, causing the Ghost Hunter's power in the Ghost City to become even denser. In such an environment, the Ghost Clan was like a fish in water. They had a natural geographical advantage. The expansion of the Ghost Purgatory Gate not only meant that more Ghost Realm energy was being emitted, but also the arrival of other Ghost Clan armies. One figure after another rapidly stepped out of the expanding Purgatory Ghost Gate, officially entering this world from the Purgatory Ghost Realm. The Ghost King that had fought with Chernzong smiled. These were the warriors of the Ghost Forest tribe. As long as the 100,000 warriors of the Ghastly Forest tribe descended upon this world, and the other Ghost King also descended upon this world, they would launch an all-out attack, crushing all resistance in this world in one fell swoop, causing the will of this world to once again fall into a deep slumber. At that time, with the Ghost Realm's will in the bodies of the Ghost Clan warriors, they would be able to erode the will of this world and transform it into a world that was more suitable for the Ghost Clan to live and fight. It would become a new Ghost Realm. Roar, 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 roar. Instantly, terrifying roar came from the other side of the Ghost Purgatory Gate. It was as if a storm had swept over and wreaked havoc. The Ghost King's expression changed when he heard the roar. Immediately, a huge and ferocious ghost face appeared from the Ghost Purgatory Gate, followed by a head full of black sarcomas. A huge body appeared and rushed out from the Ghost Purgatory Gate. The body was more than 10 meters tall. It was a black beast with a ghost face and black sarcomas all over its body. It looked a little like a lizard. It looked very disgusting, and the aura it emitted was very strong and tyrannical. Ghost beast. The Ghost King's expression darkened. He stared at the red dot on the ghost beast's forehead. And it's a controlled ghost beast. He couldn't help but have an ominous premonition. In the Ghost Purgatory Gate, there was another race besides the Ghost Clan. They were the Beast Clan, also known as Ghost Beasts. Of course, the Ghost race had intelligence. Ghost beasts did not have much intelligence, but their bestial instincts surpassed their intelligence. Ghost beasts and ghost clans would not get along peacefully. In fact, the 36 divisions of the Purgatory Ghoul race would compete with each other and even fight against each other. The ghouls would also kill ghoul beasts to absorb their life force to improve themselves and become stronger. Of course, ghost beasts would also devour each other, devouring ghost beasts and ghosts to improve themselves. As for ghost beasts, when they were born, they all looked the same. They were just a ball. As they continued to devour and grow, they would take on different shape. There were all kinds of strange shapes, and most of them looked very disgusting. But nothing is absolute. Ghost beasts could also be used by the Ghost Clan. Among the 36 divisions of the Ghost Clan, there was a division called the Ghost Beast Division. The difference between the Ghost Clan of the Ghost Beast Clan and the other 35 Ghost Clans was that some of them could control Ghost Beasts. With his own tyrannical combat strength and the addition of the Ghost Beast, he would be even more powerful. Therefore, among the 36 divisions of the Ghost Clan, the overall strength of the Ghost Beast Division surpassed that of the Ghost Forest Division. If the strength of the 36 divisions of the Ghost Clan was divided into levels, the 3 strong divisions would naturally be the first level, the Ghost Beast Division would be the third level, and the Ghost Forest Division would be the fourth level. Now that a Ghost Beast with the symbol of being controlled had appeared here, what did this mean? Could it be that the Ghost Forest Division had been conquered? That should not be, because the Ghost Beast Division and the Ghost Forest Division were not enemies. They should be allies. More ghost beasts came through the Purgatory Ghoul Gate to this world. Accompanying them were ghosts. When they arrived, they were about to roar loudly, but when they felt the tyrannical aura of the Ghost King, they all shut up. Ghost Forest Jialuo, you need to give me an explanation? The Ghost King overseeing the Ghost City was furious. Originally, this should be a good thing for the Ghost Forest Division. How could the Ghost Beast Division be involved? The Ghost Beast Division was stronger than the Ghost Forest Division. If they entered here, they would probably gain dominance. When that happened, the benefits that the Ghost Forest Division could gain would be greatly reduced. Moreover, if the Ghost Beast Division knew, then what about the other divisions? If the 36 tribes knew about this and entered this world one after another, especially the 3 strongest tribes, the Ghost Forest tribe would probably have nothing to do with this. Then, all the efforts that he had put in and the price that the Ghost Forest Division had paid would have been wasted. Therefore, he felt angry and could not help but question the other Ghost King of the Ghost Forest Division. Jess, our movements were discovered by the Ghost Beast Division. Ghost Forest Jialuo explained. Fortunately, they were only discovered by the Ghost Beast Division and attracted the attention of the Ghost Beast Division's Ghost King. They had no choice but to join forces with the Ghost Beast Division and enter this world. Moreover, with the Ghost Beast Division as a cover, the other 16 divisions would not discover anything for a while. In addition, this time, the Ghost Beast Division that entered this world with the Ghost Forest Division totaled a quarter of their forces. Jess, it's not a good thing to eat alone. A rough voice filled with malice sounded, accompanied by an extremely terrifying roar that shook the heavens and earth. That was the roar of a ghost beast, and it was not an ordinary ghost beast. A 3-meter-tall figure clad in battle armor stepped into the Ghost Purgatory Gate and appeared in the Ghost City. An extremely tyrannical aura spread out, suppressing in all directions. At the same time, a huge pitch-black ghost beast appeared. That ghost beast looked like a lion that was 20 meters in size. Of course, its face was a ghost face, which was the characteristic of all ghost beasts. On the forehead of that ghost face, there was a huge sarcoma that seemed to be throbbing. The sarcoma on this ghost beast's body, on the contrary, was very few and did not look that scary. This kind of ghost beast that looked more normal was usually a ghost beast with even more shocking potential, which also meant that it was more powerful. Ghost Beast King. This was actually a Ghost Beast King. The so-called Ghost Beast King referred to a ghost beast that had the battle strength of a Ghost King. A Ghost King and a Ghost Beast King were equivalent to two Ghost Kings in terms of combat strength. The Ghost Beast clan had 3 Ghost Kings. Although one of the Ghost Kings was unable to control ghost beasts, the other 2 Ghost Kings could each control a Ghost Beast King. That was equivalent to having 5 Ghost Kings. In terms of peak battle strength, the Ghost Beast clan was obviously stronger than the Ghost Forest clan. In addition, the army of the Ghost Beast clan was stronger than the Ghost Forest clan. Ming, this world was discovered by my Ghost Forest clan. Ghost Forest Jess replied coldly. Even if the Ghost Beast clan was stronger than the Ghost Forest clan, he was not afraid. This world is so big with your Ghost Forest clan's strength, you may not be able to take it all. The Ghost Beast Ming laughed. My Ghost Beast clan will not take advantage of your Ghost Forest clan. This time, the resources needed to build the Ghost Mother Tree will be provided by our Ghost Beast clan. Okay. Ghost Forest Jess thought for a moment and agreed. The Ghost clan was a race that was born to fight. It was also a very strange race. They did not have a gender, or it could be said that they were all males, because that was the form that the Ghost Realms will recognized, the most suitable form for fighting. Therefore, the Ghost clan did not have parents. They were born from the Ghost Mother Tree. The so-called Ghost Mother Tree was the place where the Ghost clan was born. In the Ghost Forest Purgatory, there was a Ghost Mother Tree in each of the 36 Ghost Forest divisions. It constantly absorbed energy and gave birth to young Ghost clan members. Then, it started to fight, kill, and devour, constantly improving itself, becoming ghost soldiers and joining the army. However, the resources needed to build a Ghost Mother Tree were too shocking. With the Ghost Forest clan's ability, they could build a Ghost Mother Tree in this world. This ghost city was prepared in advance for the construction of the Ghost Mother Tree. However, once the Ghost Mother Tree was built, the Ghost Forest clan's many years of savings would be used up. However, the Ghost Forest clan had already decided to enter this world, which was equivalent to giving up everything in the Ghost Forest. Therefore, even if they had to use up all their resources, they had to build a Ghost Mother Tree. This way, they could ensure the continuation of the Ghost Forest clan. But now, things had changed. The Ghost Beast clan knew about it and participated in it. This had become a fact that could not be changed. Therefore, the Ghost Beast clan naturally had to pay a price for this. The Ghost Beast clan would use all their resources to build the Ghost Mother Tree as the price they had to pay. This way, the Ghost Forest clan could save a lot of resources. Now that the Ghost Forest clan had completely entered this world, the construction of the Ghost Mother Tree was imperative. The Ghost Mother Tree had to be built near the Ghost Gate of Purgatory. This way, it could absorb more energy from the Ghost Forest Purgatory. Ghost generals circled around in all directions, constantly releasing their energy. Under the guidance of the Ghost King of the Ghost Beast clan, the energy was released in all directions. The Ghost Mother Tree was a gigantic tree. The construction of the Ghost Mother Tree was not easy. It required a huge amount of resources and energy. First, it had to be condensed into a seed. Then, it had to be irrigated so that it would germinate and grow. Precious resources were constantly refined. Finally, they gathered into a heart that was about 10 meters in size. The heart was pitch black, but it was covered with red veins. It was beating, as if it was nurturing something terrifying. The energy was continuously channeled into the seed of the Ghost Mother Tree. Gradually, traces of black mist with traces of red light appeared in the seed of the ghost mother tree. As the mist rose, it seemed as if it was rolling over and over. The mist was constantly spreading and accumulating. Gradually, it covered the entire seed of the ghost mother tree. As the mist lingered, the red light at the edge of the black mist became more and more obvious. The black mist emitted a cold and gloomy aura, while the red mist emitted a blazing and overbearing aura. The ghost king of the ghost beast clan in the sky had a solemn expression. The ghost beast kings beside him also gathered their energy and condensed it. Immediately, as if they had used all their strength to attack, they directly shot down. Boom! The mist outside the seed of the ghost mother tree fluctuated continuously. It was like a surging tide, like the waves of the sea. Vaguely, there seemed to be an extremely shocking roar coming from the seed of the ghost mother tree. Chapter 1857. Within the ghost city, a tree had sprouted and was growing healthily. On Bewildering Light Island, Chernzong held a long sword condensed from the heart sword Dao Will and was practicing sword techniques one by one. This sword technique looked very simple. Stab, hack, slice, chop, flick. This was the basic swordsmanship. It was the most basic swordsmanship that was passed down in every world in the universe. It was the basic technique of using the sword. Everyone who was determined to practice swordsmanship had to cultivate and master this swordsmanship from the beginning. However, most people who practiced the sword would change to a more advanced sword technique after mastering the basic sword technique. After that, they would throw the basic sword technique to the back of their minds and would not review it again. This was because they felt that there was no need to do so. Once in a battle, it was natural to use powerful sword techniques to deal with the enemy. That was the first choice. However, Chernzong did not. Reviewing the basic sword technique was like an instinct that was engraved in the depths of his soul. Even if he changed his body, it was still the same. Now, Chernzong was reviewing the basic sword technique again, calming himself down and looking for inspiration to slowly accumulate, improve, and break through himself. In the territory of Great Change City, in the temporary mountain gate of the Azura sect, Chernxiu was practicing the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique and constantly absorbing the power of the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl. The fourth stage of the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique was improving bit by bit. The Divine Fiend Azura battle technique was very advanced. Every stage of improvement was very difficult. Without the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl, it was unknown how many years it would take for Chernxiu's cultivation to break through from the fourth stage to the fifth stage. It was unimaginable. Now, even with the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl, it was not so easy. Chernxiu estimated that once he cultivated the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique to the fifth stage, he would surpass the 9-star level and possess the combat power of a demigod. As for whether he would condense the flower of extremity, he was not sure. The potential of this body was shocking. He really could not be sure what level of extremity it was. In a certain void in the profound world, a golden flame burned continuously and seemed to become more and more vigorous. It was the heavenly god in the palace of providence that was favored by the will of this world. It could be said that in this world, heavenly god Gong was the one who had received the most providence, followed by Chernzong and Chernxiu. In addition, not long ago, the three of them worked together to defeat a ghost king, temporarily resolving a great crisis. They received more care from this side of the world and became more sensitive to changes in qi. Inside Ghost City, the ghost mother tree was growing healthily. At the same time, a terrifying ghost hunter will also spread out from the ghost mother tree. It slowly spread out and attacked everything with malice. This was the erosion of the world's will. Chernzong, Chernxiu, and the heavenly god Gong all faltered upon hearing this. They felt as if there was an ominous aura permeating between heaven and earth. This ominous aura carried with it a frightening malice. Chernzong and the others felt chills run down their spines. It was as if their minds and wills were being corroded and polluted. There was no pollution, nor was there any erosion. However, it felt like dark clouds were looming over their heads, making them feel very uncomfortable. Especially for those who had received more care from this side of the world, the more obvious this feeling was. Could it be that the Ghost Clan is making a move again? Chen Zong couldn't help but think. With a thought, he disappeared and reappeared in Tai Luo City. Chen Zong executed the yin-yang seamless movement technique to its limit. Silently, he quickly headed in the direction of Ghost City. Scout the enemy. As soon as he entered Tai Luo City, Chen Zong acutely sensed the changes in the aura here. It was obviously much denser. His expression was somewhat serious. The closer he got to Ghost City, the denser the sinister and domineering aura became. The light also became dimmer, and he couldn't even see his own fingers. After passing through the walls of Ghost City, although the defensive power was more than twice as strong, Chen Zong was still not discovered. Immediately, Chen Zong was surprised to see a huge and hideous monster with a twisted ghost face and a body full of sarcomas. It was very disgusting, but the aura it emitted was also very powerful and shocking. These are ghost beasts. Chen Zong's expression became more and more serious. Chen Zong's memory was connected to Chen Xiu's. Therefore, what Chen Xiu knew, Chen Zong also knew. Ghost beasts. Even ghost beasts had appeared here. Thinking carefully, these ghost beasts had red lights flashing between their eyebrows. They were obviously ghost beasts that were being controlled. Among the Ghost Clan, only the Ghost Beast Division could control Ghost Beast. In other words, other than the original Ghost Forest Division, the Ghost Beast Division had also entered here? The Ghost Forest Division was already very powerful. For the Supreme Mystery Realm, it was almost impossible to resist. If the even more powerful Ghost Beast Division had also entered, it would be a disaster. Could this be the origin of the sinister aura? Infiltrate. Constantly infiltrate. Under the yin-yang seamless movement technique, Chen Zong's aura was extremely restrained. As long as he didn't actively leak it, even the Ghost King would find it difficult to immediately discover him. In the distance, Chen Zong saw a huge and strange tree. It was rapidly growing inch by inch into the sky, constantly growing taller and thicker. It was a big tree with a black trunk. The trunk was already more than 10 meters long, and it was still growing. There were countless scars on it, and they looked like distorted ghost faces. Countless branches spread out in all directions. The shape was very strange, as if countless ghosts were lurking on it. An astonishing malice was constantly spreading from the gradually growing tree. It seemed to have turned into layers of ripples that could be seen with the naked eye. Chen Zong's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of needles. This tree. There seemed to be related information in the Ghost General's memory. The Ghost Mother Tree. It was the thing that gave birth to the Purgatory Ghost Clan. For the Ghost Clan, it was a sacred tree. It was a sacred tree that carried the great will of the Purgatory Ghost Realm. It could truly transform the surrounding environment into a ghost realm that was more suitable for the Ghost Clan to live and fight in. Chen Zong finally understood where the oppressive feeling came from. It was as if dark clouds had covered the sky. The Ghost Clan had strengthened their invasion of this world. Moreover, it was the Ghost King and Ghost Beast King of the Ghost Beast tribe. In addition, it was the two Ghost Kings of the Ghost Forest tribe. In this way, the Ghost Clan had the battle strength of 4 Ghost Kings, which was equivalent to 4 peak demigods. Danger. An extremely strong sense of danger suddenly swept over and filled his body. Chen Zong couldn't help but tremble. A great crisis had descended upon the profound realm. 4 peak demigod experts, tens of thousands of Ghost Clan soldiers gathered, and the appearance of the Ghost Mother Tree, a sacred object of the Ghost Clan, revealed a message. The Ghost Clan was about to launch a large-scale attack. Against 1,000 or 2,000 Ghost Clan soldiers, the Human Clan Alliance might be able to resist. But against 10 or 20,000 Ghost Clan soldiers, the 3 human clan alliances wouldn't be able to resist at all. They would be defeated at first contact. Even if Chen Zong and Chen Xiu attacked with all their might, the result would still be the same. After all, the Ghost Clan had 4 peak demigod experts. Destroy the Ghost Mother Tree now? Chen Zong silently calculated and deduced, but he couldn't do it. It was equivalent to 4 Ghost Kings surrounding him. Once he leaked his aura, he would immediately be attacked. Other than leaving, there was nothing else he could do. After all, he wasn't strong enough. But no matter what, he had to let the other humans know about the changes here. Immediately, Chen Xiu came out of seclusion and found Alliance leader Yuanji. He told him everything that Chen Zong had seen. The entire Taiyuan Alliance's main hall was filled with coldness and solemnity. Lord Chen Xiu, it's not that I don't believe you, but what you said is too unbelievable. Alliance leader Yuanji smiled bitterly. This is the information that Jiandi Chen Zong found out with his own eyes, Chen Xiu said unhurriedly. Jiandi Chen Zong. These 4 words carried more weight than Sword Demon Chen Xiu, at least in everyone's minds. Moreover, such an important matter couldn't be joked about. Lord Chen Xiu, what do you and Lord Jiandi think? Alliance leader Yuanji calmed himself down and asked again. Retreat immediately. Withdraw from Great Change City and join forces with the Xiankong Alliance and Taiyuan Sacred Alliance, Chen Xiu said solemnly. At this point, the 3 alliances had to unite and cooperate sincerely. Only by retreating to a corner would they have a slight hope of resisting the Ghost Race army. Otherwise, they would be defeated one by one and all of them would perish. If they joined forces, they could completely concentrate their strength and not be defeated one by one. In addition, if they retreated to a corner, they could also wait for reinforcements to arrive. Neither Chen Zong nor Chen Xiu were tactical strategists. They just gave a pertinent suggestion. As for whether it was feasible or not, the Taiyuan Alliance indeed had the corresponding talents to analyze it. And the result of the analysis was approval. After all, there was a clear gap between the strength of the humans and the Ghost Race, be it in terms of individual combat strength or numbers. Especially now that the Ghost Race army had truly entered the profound world, their numbers were dozens or even hundreds of times more than before. There were even Ghost King realm experts, which was extremely terrifying. The 3 alliances retreated to a corner. They had no choice but to do so. Immediately, Grand Elder Yuan Kong and Grand Elder Yuan Feng of the Taiyuan Alliance moved. They went through the Void Gate of the Void Temple to Taiyuan Sacred Alliance and Xiankong Alliance to inform them of the news and explain their intentions. Unite. The 3 alliances united. Although they didn't see it with their own eyes, the group of experts could more or less feel the aura in the air. It was even more oppressive, as if dark clouds were hanging over their heads. It was heavy and very uncomfortable. The Xiankong Alliance didn't refuse. They agreed immediately and began to arrange for people to retreat. As for the Taiyuan Sacred Alliance, for some reason, they didn't agree immediately. Instead, they sent people to the boundary of Grand Luo City to investigate, as if to further confirm the situation. However, while they were investigating, they also arranged for some people to retreat first. The direction of their retreat this time was the boundary at the very edge of the ultimate profundity realm, called Tai Chi City. Taiji City's boundary was the largest in the profound world. Even Taixien City couldn't compare to it. However, the chi of heaven and earth in Taiji City wasn't rich enough and resources were scarce. It was the kind of place that was vast but sparsely populated. Retreating to Taiji City was really a last resort. Chapter 1858. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Like a raging storm, it sounded like a war horn that resounded through the heavens and earth. An expanse of pitch black surged in the sky. It was like dark clouds that covered the heavens and the earth, and it was like a surging tide. A gloomy and blazing, overbearing aura covered the heavens and the earth. Everywhere it passed, everything was shattered, swallowed, and destroyed. The Ghost Clan army. This patch of darkness was like a swarm of locusts passing through. It was the Ghost Clan army that set off from Ghost City. 3 Ghost Kings and a Ghost Beast King were among them. Attack. The Ghost Clan immediately launched an attack. They gathered enough forces to prevent any unexpected events from happening and immediately set off. They planned to devour all the humans in the highest mystery realm and completely occupy the highest mystery realm. At that time, they could use the highest mystery realm as their base camp and spread out in all directions, invading other realms until they completely occupied this world and turned it into a new ghost region. As they advanced, the army split into 2 groups. One group headed in the direction of Tai City. It was the 2 Ghost Kings and the Ghost Soldiers of the Ghost Forest tribe. The other group headed out of the highest mystery realm. This was previously discussed between the Ghost Forest tribe and the Ghost Beast tribe. The highest mystery realm belonged to the Ghost Forest tribe. The Ghost Beast tribe had to leave the highest mystery realm and head to other realms. The neighboring realms to the highest mystery realm were the Upper Yuan realm, the Ancient Suppression realm, and the Sky Chill realm. The Upper Yuan realm was separated by the bewildering light ocean, which was difficult to cross. Although the Ghost Beast tribe seemed to have fewer troops in terms of numbers, they were not inferior to the Ghost Forest tribe in terms of combat power. This was because nearly half of the Ghost Beast tribe warriors had Ghost Beasts. At the border of the highest mystery realm, in the territory of Taiji City, Chen Xiu informed the Primary Peak Alliance leader, the Xiankong Alliance leader, and the Taishan Alliance leader that the Ghost Clan army had set off. The Taishan Alliance sent people to infiltrate the territory of Tailuo City and paid a hefty price to confirm the news. The entire alliance retreated to Taiji City. The 3 alliances joined forces and set up many traps in the territory of Taiji City to deal with the Ghost Clan army. Are they coming? The Xiankong Alliance leader's eyes shone brightly. Then let them come. We will fight sooner or later. The Primary Peak Alliance leader exuded an astonishing aura that was beyond the past. The Taishan Alliance leader did not speak, but the murderous intent in his eyes could not be concealed. A figure appeared in Ghost City. It was Chen Zong. At this moment, the Ghost City was truly like a ghost city. There was no one in sight, not a single Ghost Clan member remained. The Ghost Race army had already moved out in full force. They did not leave behind any warriors to guard this place. This also revealed the Ghost Race's determination and will to attack. At the same time, it also revealed a kind of confidence that they were not afraid of being attacked. Since there were no ghosts left to guard the city, Chen Zong did not need to hide himself carefully. Using his movement technique, Chen Zong quickly headed towards the depths of the ghost city. Soon after, he saw a huge black tree with a strange shape. It was dozens of meters wide and nearly 1,000 meters tall. Ghost Mother Tree. This was the Ghost Mother Tree, the holy tree of the Purgatory Ghost Clan. It was the holy tree that gave birth to the Purgatory Ghost Clan. Without the Ghost Mother Tree, the Purgatory ghouls would not have been able to appear. And now, such a huge Ghost Mother Tree was right in front of Chen Zong's eyes. Chen Zong's heart was suddenly filled with excitement. Destruction. Destroying this Ghost Mother Tree would be a big blow to the ghost race. However, Chen Zong did not immediately take action. Instead, he pondered. The Ghost Mother Tree was so important. It did not make sense that the ghost race did not leave any soldiers behind to guard it. The only explanation was that the Ghost Mother Tree was not weak. It could not be destroyed. A deeper guess was that the Ghost Mother Tree also possessed great power. Regarding this point, the ghost race's memory that Chen Xiu obtained seemed to be fragmented. So Chen Xiu was not clear about it. After all, it was just a soul fragment. As for whether it was true or not, he would find out soon. The Ghost Mother Tree was almost 1,000 meters tall. Its trunk was covered with ghost faces and scars. Each of them was twisted, as if the soul had been tortured in its lifetime and was branded on it. It was extremely painful. With just a glance, Chen Zong felt an indescribable chill rising from the depths of his heart. Incomparably complicated branches stretched out in all directions, covering a radius of more than 1,000 meters. On top of them, there was a 1-meter-long heart-like object hanging upside down. It was completely black, and its surface was covered with crimson veins. It seemed to be trembling slightly. That was the ghost realm. It was the thing that gave birth to the ghost race. In every ghost realm, there was a baby ghost race that was growing until it broke out of the ghost realm. It would take a long time. Sword intent, infinite heart destruction. In an instant, Chen Zong gathered all of his power and slashed out with his sword. The sword light shot out like a vacuum. In an instant, it crossed thousands of meters and approached the ghost mother tree. Slash. The powerful slash turned into a sword light that was dozens of meters long and slashed at the ghost mother tree, trying to cut it in half. However, while the idea was beautiful, the reality was cruel. The powerful sword light slashed at the trunk of the ghost mother tree. At the same time, a black light flashed across the ghost mother tree and blocked Chen Zong's powerful slash. In the next moment, the black light disappeared, but the trunk of the ghost mother tree was still intact, without a single scratch. Chen Zong's eyes widened in shock. The infinite heart destruction was the most powerful slash after the vacuum death slash. Moreover, it was executed with all of his power. If the Ghost King was hit, it would definitely be seriously injured. However, such a powerful slash could not cause any damage to the ghost mother tree. It could not even leave a mark on it. It was completely blocked by the black light. Chen Zong finally understood why the ghost race was so relaxed and did not have any power to guard this place. It was impossible to break through such a defense, let alone destroy it. In just a breath of time, Chen Zong's expression suddenly changed, but he was still a bit too slow. The ghost mother tree's scars that looked like ghost faces trembled. The ghost faces seemed to come alive. They opened their mouths that were devoid of teeth and let out sharp screeches. Ghost wails. In an instant, countless sharp and terrifying screeches came from the mouth of each ghost face. The ghost faces twisted and trembled. They seemed to want to break away from the ghost mother tree and turn into vengeful spirits. This extremely terrifying shriek was like a thunderclap exploding out, directly charging towards them. Chen Zong felt his skin go numb, as if it was being torn apart. Waves of pain came from his body. His muscles, bones, and internal organs were also trembling. It was as if they were being cut by countless tiny blades. His entire spirit sea was also impacted. It was as if it was being destroyed by a natural disaster. It shook violently and almost collapsed. If the Tao Will of Heart sword had not been raised to perfection and guarded the spirit sea, making it more stable, it would have been shattered. Even so, the spirit sea was shaking violently. Chen Zong felt as if his soul was being attacked continuously. It was as if it was being torn apart. In an instant, Chen Zong disappeared and appeared on Bewildering Light Island. In Ghost City, after the Ghost Mother Tree released the terrifying soul-chasing sound wave, it waved its flexible branches like a long whip and lashed at the spot where Chen Zong had disappeared. With a bang, the void cracked inch by inch. In an instant, a crack that was more than 10 meters long and as thick as a pinky finger formed. Chen Zong did not see this scene. Otherwise, he would be even more shocked. The Ghost Mother Tree not only had an amazing defensive ability, but it also had a terrifying counterattack ability. It was no wonder that the Ghost Clan was so relaxed. They were not afraid that someone would attack the Ghost Mother Tree directly. In the Purgatory Ghost Realm, even the most powerful Ghost King could not do anything to the Ghost Mother Tree. It could be said that other than the fact that the Mother Ghoul Tree was unable to move, its fighting prowess was much stronger than the strongest Ghoul King in the Purgatory. Only those at the Great Saint stage could threaten or even destroy the Ghost Mother Tree. However, there were not many Supreme Saints in the Tianyuan sacred territory. Some of them had already left to explore the void of the universe in search of opportunities to improve themselves. Some of them had stayed behind to watch out for the invasion of the void demons. Some of them had entered a deep level of seclusion. It could be said that there were no Supreme Saints in the void boundary realm at the moment. The Purgatory Ghost Clan was not the only enemy in the Tianyuan sacred territory. There were also the void demons. If they were careless, the void demons would invade the Tianyuan sacred territory. If not for the need to defend against the void demons, the void boundary realm would be much stronger than this. On Bewildering Light Island, Chunzong's face was pale. The Ghost Mother Tree not only had an amazing defensive ability, but its sound wave was also terrifying. In an instant, he felt like his body was being cut into pieces. His spirit sea was directly attacked, and his soul was in turmoil. If he had not escaped in time, his soul would have been damaged in a few breaths. How could he destroy such a terrifying Ghost Mother Tree? The turmoil in his spirit sea calmed down, and Chen Zong's face regained its color. The Purgatory Ghost Clan was really a terrifying clan. To a certain extent, they were even more powerful and difficult to deal with than the void demons that he had encountered before. Now, Chen Zong could not think of a good way to deal with the Ghost Mother Tree, so he could only give up for now. Fortunately, the Ghost Mother Tree could not move and could only stay where it was. As long as he did not attack it, it would not show its power. Maybe I'll give it a try after I condense the 3 flowers, Chen Zong thought to himself. As long as he condensed the Supreme Flower, his combat strength would be further enhanced. At that time, he might be able to break the Ghost Mother Tree's defense and destroy it before it could counterattack. As for now, he had to chase after the Ghost Clan army. In an instant, Chen Zong's figure disappeared and reappeared in the boundary of Grand Brightness City. He followed the aura left behind by the Ghost Clan and quickly chased after them. At this moment, the Ghost Clan army had already crossed the boundary of Grand Brightness City, crossed the Star Plane, and stepped into the boundary of Grand Change City. However, there wasn't a single soul in the area of Great Change City. The Great Yuan Alliance had already retreated and left this place, leaving behind only a deathly silence. They escaped so quickly. Ghost Forest Jesse sneered. He was a little surprised, but it was also reasonable. The Ghost Clan army moved out directly. Although they were divided into 2 groups, the Ghost Forest Tribe's army was almost 100,000 strong. It was so terrifying that it could destroy everything in its path. Moreover, the Ghost Clan did not plan to hide their tracks and directly advanced. With such a large force, the human clan would definitely know in advance and react accordingly. Retreat. This was undoubtedly the right way to go. It was better than fighting head-on. After all, the Ghost Clan army was too powerful. Chapter 1859. Oppression. An extremely oppressive aura filled the air. Everyone felt their hearts sink and they found it hard to breathe. The territory of Taiji City was vast and boundless. A huge city stood on the ground, and it could be seen that the city walls were still very new. It was obvious that they had just been built not long ago. Moreover, there was a huge crossbow bed placed every 20 meters on the city walls. On top of it, there was a huge crossbow that was 2 meters long. The tip of the crossbow was like the tip of a long spear. It shone with a green light and seemed to contain terrifying power. There were 300 of these crossbows lined up in a row. The Void Temple had always been neutral and did not participate in any battles in Tianyuan's sacred region. However, now that Taishan world was facing a huge disaster that would affect the entire Tianyuan sacred region, the Void Temple was finally willing to help. However, they did not help directly. Instead, they traded some treasures, such as the Void Demon-Slaying Crossbow. The Void Demon-Slaying Crossbow was extremely powerful and shocking. The more power was injected into it, the more powerful it would be. When the power was strong enough, it could even kill a 9-star expert. Of course, it was difficult to use the Void Demon-Slaying Crossbow to kill a 9-star expert. After all, the Void Demon-Slaying Crossbow needed to accumulate power. This took time and a series of preparations such as aiming. However, a 9-star warrior wouldn't just stand there and wait to be killed. Not only 9-star experts, but any cultivator would do the same. Now that the Ghost Tribe army was invading, the mysterious Void Temple did not help directly. They could only trade for the Void Demon-Slaying Crossbows and make other arrangements. Facing so many enemies, they did not need to aim. They only needed to adjust the direction slightly. Once they shot out, they would definitely hit the Ghost Tribe and cause a lot of damage. Of course, there were only 300 Void Demon-Slaying Crossbows. It was hard to say how much damage they could cause to the Ghost Tribe. However, no matter what, Taiji City was their last resort. There was no way back. They had to fight to the death. They had to do their best. Even if they died, they had to kill a few more ghosts. This section of the city wall was newly built. It could be said that it was an extension of the original Taiji City. It seemed to have become an inner city and an outer city. Cultivators with sufficient combat power were all gathered in the outer city, while those without sufficient combat power were gathered in the inner city. Of course, if the outer city was breached, the people in the inner city would inevitably die. Taiji City was the final destination. In this battle, there was a great disparity between everyone. However, they could not retreat and could only face it head-on. With the three alliances working together, there were more than 1,500 cultivators with 4-star combat power and above. Compared to before, this number had increased by quite a bit. The invasion of the Purgatory Ghouls had caused great casualties in the Profound Realm. It was unknown how many humans had been devoured. However, the invasion of the Purgatory Ghouls had awakened the will of the world, and it was slowly recovering. As the will of the world awakened and gradually recovered, not only could cultivators obtain origin essence from killing ghouls to strengthen themselves, but they could also improve their cultivation efficiency. Although many cultivators had died in the battle against the Purgatory Ghouls, many cultivators had also made breakthroughs in their battle prowess and become even stronger. On the whole, there were more 4-star cultivators than before the invasion of the Purgatory Ghouls. However, compared to the Purgatory Ghouls, there was still a huge gap in numbers. Perhaps only when the will of the world completely recovered and cultivated for a few hundred more years would there be hope of catching up to the Purgatory Ghouls' current level. According to the news sent back, there were at least tens of thousands of ghouls attacking. Even the weakest of them had 4-star combat power. On the human side, even with the three alliances combined, there were only about 1,500 of them. 1,000 against tens of thousands. The disparity was too great. If they knew that the ghouls were not tens of thousands, but close to 100,000, they would only feel despair. Even now, there was only one expression on everyone's face: solemn. Extremely solemn. The wind was bleak, the water was cold, and the warriors had left and never returned. This kind of aura had already filled the surroundings like smoke signals. The power of the 300 Void Devil-Slaying Crossbows had been accumulated to the extreme, reaching the upper limit of the crossbows. Even a 9-star expert would have more than a 50% chance of dying if they were hit head-on. Unless they had some defensive secret treasure or some special method. Of course, the bodies of the Purgatory Ghouls were strong. Even if they were hit head-on, they might not die, but they would definitely be severely injured. Among the 1,500 people, Chern Xiu was also present. He was still holding the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl that was getting smaller and smaller. He was constantly using the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique, trying his best to make use of all the time to improve himself. Pressure. The aura was getting more and more oppressive. Everyone's heart was heavy, almost suffocating. Under such pressure, some people could still hold on, and could still cultivate and maintain their condition, showing shocking iron will. However, some people were already emotionally unstable. In the inner city of Taiji City, it seemed to be gloomy. The ghouls are coming. We can't stop them at all. Since we are going to die, we might as well enjoy it before we die. In the inner city, some people's minds were already in turmoil. It was as if their inner demons had been awakened, and their desires were infinitely magnified. They were about to die. This sentence was like a curse, but also like a virus, spreading rapidly in the inner city. The human heart was the easiest to be shaken, especially the low-level cultivators and ordinary people who did not have strong wills. When faced with a desperate situation, it was easy for their temperament to change greatly. Some of the desires that were hidden in the depths of their hearts would be infinitely magnified. Under the influence of such desires, the inner city started to become chaotic. Burning, killing, robbing, and lewd acts were committed everywhere. However, the three great alliances had also considered this situation. Therefore, those cultivators whose combat power was between 1-star and 3-star were not qualified to participate in the battle against the Ghost Clan. Instead, they formed teams to defend and control the inner city. Once there was any chaos, they would immediately appear and suppress it. Attention, the ghouls have already entered the boundary of Taiji City and are approaching, Chen Xiu suddenly said. His cold voice entered everyone's ears. Whether the warriors were cultivating or resting, all of their expressions changed greatly. Finally, it was still coming. The inevitable decisive battle was about to arrive. Immediately, 100 people stepped out and stood beside the void demon slaying crossbows. They were ready to shoot 100 powerful crossbows at any time to kill as many ghouls as possible. The ghouls had arrived. Once they entered the boundary of Taiji City, it would only take a few hours for them to approach. A few hours did not pass in the blink of an eye, but the heavy pressure made it so that no one dared to relax, nor could they relax. After a few hours, the ghouls would arrive. At that time, who would be able to survive? Perhaps none. All of them would have to die. I don't want to die. A 4-star warrior mumbled to himself. His expression kept changing. His voice was low, and it seemed like it was still trembling. His trembling voice seemed to be contagious. It affected the people around him, causing their hearts to tremble uncontrollably. It was as if they had been stabbed by a sharp knife. An inexplicable panic was suddenly awakened. If you don't want to die, then kill the ghouls and try your best to survive. Chen Xiu's voice suddenly sounded. There was an extreme coldness that penetrated one's soul. His voice carried a shocking might and willpower. This shocking might and willpower shattered the panic that had just risen in everyone's hearts. Actually, this kind of thing was not very suitable for Chen Xiu to do, but there was nothing they could do. Chen Xiu was the strongest here. Moreover, since they had chosen to face the ghouls here, Chen Xiu had to boost everyone's morale. Otherwise, before the ghouls really arrived, their morale would be shaken and they would lose their fighting spirit. Only death would await them. We have no way out. Even if we surrender, the ghouls will not let you go. The leader of the UNG Alliance spoke. His voice was deep and vigorous, containing a strong willpower. Therefore, other than fighting to the death with the ghouls, there is no other way. If we fight to the death, we will most likely die, but at least we will die with dignity. If we surrender or escape and get killed, we will lose all our dignity as humans. If we kill one ghoul, it will be even. If we kill 2 ghouls, it will be a gain. Moreover, if we kill the ghouls, we can obtain their origin essence to improve ourselves and become stronger. We can kill more ghouls. The 3 alliance leaders spoke one after another. Their voices were either deep, resounding, or impassioned. They were all different, but they had one thing in common: they were infectious. A strong influence was contained in their words, incessantly arousing the human dignity in the depths of everyone's hearts. It also stimulated and strengthened the traces of fighting spirit that had been suppressed. Kill. Fight to the death. If we kill one, we will break even. If we kill two, we will make a profit. I've had enough of these King ghouls. Curses immediately rang out, and the oppressive aura was instantly broken. Everyone's expressions were no longer as grave as before. They seemed to have regained some vitality, and their fighting spirit gradually became stronger. The ghouls' army will arrive in 6 hours. In 6 hours, everyone must adjust your breathing and be prepared for battle, the leader of the UNG Alliance ordered. Everyone's fighting spirit had been awakened. Even though they knew that they would most likely die in this battle, they were still determined and did not hesitate. Because there was no way out. Who was willing to die? Who wanted to die? No one. As long as there was a way out, many people would pursue it. However, there was no way out now. Since there was no way out, they could not throw away their last dignity as humans. Fight. It was nothing more than death. Under the current circumstances, there was no difference between dying sooner or later. Fighting spirit, determination. Chen Xiu's will was incomparably strong. He stood firm and unmoved, as if he was not affected at all. Based on his own strength, he might die in this battle as well. But, so what? Would he not fight because he was afraid of dying? No, not only did he have to fight, but he also had to carve out a bloody path in the battle. Chapter 1860. Between the ancient suppression world and the ultimate profundity realm, there was a huge rift valley. The clouds moved, and a group appeared from the rift in an instant. 1, 2, 3, a total of 300 figures. Each figure exuded a powerful aura. They were at least 4-star, and the strongest were 8-star. The aura here is so oppressive. It's ominous. A surprised voice suddenly sounded. It was from one of the people. He had just activated his cultivation method, and was surprised to find that 4 stars had condensed above his head. The others also noticed this and followed suit. In an instant, 4 stars, 5 stars, and even 8 stars appeared. Did something happen in the ultimate profundity realm during this time? One of the 300 people thought. He was from the ultimate profundity sacred palace, and had gone to the ancient suppression world to ask for help under the orders of the ultimate profundity sacred palace master. After a few months, he had finally pulled in a group of reinforcements. Although it was only 300, it was still a powerful force. He didn't know that the ultimate profundity realm had changed so much in just a few months. As the fighting star appeared, an invisible will also entered everyone's consciousness and was received by them. Suddenly, everyone was shocked. The battle star was actually a manifestation of one's battle prowess. In this place, killing ghosts would allow one to obtain essence energy to strengthen oneself. The more ghosts one killed, the more the world's karmic luck would favor them, which would be beneficial to one's cultivation in the future. Where are the ghosts? Suddenly, many people rubbed their palms, eager to try. Their eyes were burning, as if the ghosts were prey like demonic beasts. Everyone, the ghosts are very strong and terrifying. You must not underestimate them, the ultimate profundity sacred palace master said with a serious expression. The elder of Taishan Saint Palace said solemnly. Although he didn't know what had happened in Taishan world during this period of time, he had personally experienced the strength of the ghost clan. If one underestimated the ghosts, they would definitely die a horrible death. We will not underestimate the ghosts, nor will we fear them, the ancient suppression saint said loudly. This time, he was the leader. The biggest force in the ancient suppression world was the ancient suppression sacred hall. Its position in the ancient suppression world was the same as the Taishan sacred palace. This time, the great profound holy palace's elder asked for help, directly finding the suppressing ancient sacred hall, explaining the situation, also bringing out the ghost race's corpse as proof. The Zhen-gu Sacred Hall sent out an order to gather 300 cultivators with at least 4-star battle prowess. They were led by the Zhen-gu Sacred Sun. In addition to reinforcing the highest profundity realm, he also had plans to cultivate and train the ancient suppression Holy Child. In the end, it was because the ancient suppression world hadn't truly realized how terrifying the purgatory ghost race was. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done this and would have been more cautious. The great profound St. Palace Elder's understanding of the Ghost Clan was still a few months ago, so he didn't think it was inappropriate. "Everyone, let's go to the battlefield now," the Elder of the Supreme Profound Holy Palace said loudly. The 300 people immediately set off, quickly moving forward. However, it didn't take long for them to stop with grave expressions. In front of him, there was a vast and terrifying aura spreading out. That aura was made up of countless strands of aura, and every single strand of aura was astonishing and tyrannical. Every single strand of aura was filled with an ominous aura, and it was filled with dense malice. Cold and gloomy, ghastly forest, blazing, domineering. It's the aura of the purgatory ghost race, the Elder of the Supreme Profound Holy Palace Elder said with a grave expression. The purgatory ghost race? The ancient suppression Holy Child and the other cultivators from the ancient suppression world were all excited and eager to give it a try. In the next moment they were all stunned. Their expressions changed drastically, and they were extremely shocked. The mighty ghost race army was like a black tide, and it was like a dark cloud that covered the sky, rapidly spreading out from the distant horizon. Looking at their numbers, it wasn't 100 or 1,000, but more than 10,000. In addition to the purgatory ghost race, one could also see strange and disgusting beasts with ghostly faces. The 300 people from the ancient suppression world were all grave and pale because they could clearly feel the terrifying aura of the purgatory ghost race. It was extremely terrifying. "Kill!" The ancient suppression Holy Child ordered, and everyone attacked. Rays of powerful light shot out from the sky, directly attacking the ghost race army. However, the 300 attacks were like 300 stones thrown into water. They only caused some splashes and ripples, but did not cause any harm to the ghost race army. The damage that such an attack could cause to the ghost race army of tens of thousands was extremely limited. Retreat. Such an attack didn't cause any casualties. The ancient suppression Saint Child decisively ordered. The 300 people retreated without hesitation. The direction that they were retreating in was the direction of the Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift Valley was a natural moat. Once they escaped into it, they could use the environment of the Great Rift Valley to protect themselves. In an instant, a figure covered in golden light flew over from afar, tearing through the sky with an earth-shattering force. The aura was vast and mighty, and it was as bright as the heavens. It was as if it carried the will of the heavenly way of this world, and it was carrying out justice on behalf of the heavens. The golden light was like a raging flame, and it spread out over a radius of 100 meters. Its power was extremely terrifying, and a shocking pressure constantly spread out. It was like a raging sea, surging endlessly. Such power seemed to be able to suppress an entire world. Faced with such power, the ghost race did not stop, but the reinforcements from the ancient suppression world were all stunned. How powerful! That is! The Elder of the Great Mystery Holy Palace stared at the figure in the golden flames and felt that it was somewhat familiar. It seemed to be the Holy Son of the Great Mystery Holy Palace, but he did not dare to recognize it. After all, the Great Mystery Holy Son had entered the Great Mystery Cave previously. The ancient suppression Holy Child stared at the figure in the golden flames. His intuition told him that this person was one of the 3 Holy Sons, the Great Mystery Holy Son. This time, he had led the reinforcements here with the intention of competing with the Great Mystery Holy Son. Over the years, he had worked harder than ever before, and finally, not long ago, he had raised his combat strength to the elite 6-star level. He believed that he would not lose to the great mystery Holy Sun again, and there was even a slight possibility that he could surpass him. However, he did not expect to see the heavenly god of the great mystery Holy Palace again under such circumstances. Moreover, the power that spread out from the golden flames on heavenly god Gong's body was extremely shocking. This person was heavenly god Gong, who had come out of seclusion. He had come here under the guidance of the will of this world. Boom! As the battle technique of 9 heavens and 10 earths was activated, an extremely powerful battle intent suddenly soared into the sky, causing the golden flames to burn even more fiercely. The shocking power directly repelled the void, turning the surroundings into a vacuum zone. Light became distorted, and it looked as if it was being sucked in and twisted into pieces. 9 golden battle stars suddenly condensed in the golden flames, emitting a shocking light that shone in all directions. 9 star. The reinforcements of the ancient suppression world looked extremely solemn. The ancient suppression holy child looked as if he had been struck by a thunderbolt, and his entire consciousness almost exploded. 9 star. Moreover, all of them were golden. Compared to him, there was no comparison at all. Was the heavenly god of the great mystery Holy Palace really so shocking? He had worked so hard and risked his life, but in the end, not only did he not close the gap, but he was getting further and further away. Compared to him, it was like comparing a mortal to a god. Even the ancient suppression holy child did not have much confidence that he could raise his combat strength to the peak of the 9-star level in the future. An indescribable sense of loss grew in the ancient suppression holy child's heart and gradually spread out. Suddenly, the ancient suppression holy child thought of another person. That person's background was not as good as theirs. At the beginning, he was also not as good as them, but later on, he surpassed them and became the first in the king-naming pagoda. Jiandi Chun Zong. If the heavenly god of the great mystery Holy Palace could have such shocking combat strength, then what about Jiandi Chun Zong? Was he just like the masses, or was he even more powerful and not inferior to heavenly god Gong? For a moment, the ancient suppression holy child only felt that his mind was in a mess, and even he did not know what exactly he was thinking. The light of the 9 golden battle stars was extremely intense. Immediately, the golden lights spread and connected with each other, and the golden flames on his body also quickly poured into it. Suddenly, a brown flower appeared. Flower of the extreme realm, flower of Qi. The flower of Qi, also known as the flower of earth, represented the height that one could reach after raising one's cultivation technique to the extreme. After experiencing the battle with Chunzong, the battle with the Ghost King, and then going into seclusion for a period of time, the blessed heavenly god Gong finally raised his cultivation technique to the extreme and condensed his first flower of the extreme realm. Originally, he had planned to condense more flowers of the extreme realm, or at least condense the 3 flowers of essence, Qi and spirit. When that time came, his combat strength would be raised to the extreme. Not only would he be able to defeat Jiandi Chunzong, but he would also not have to worry about the Ghost King. However, his plans could not keep up with the changes. The Purgatory Ghost Race had launched a large-scale invasion. Under the influence of this world's consciousness, the heavenly god Gong had no choice but to come out of seclusion. He was the son of Providence and was closely related to this world. If this world was severely damaged, he would also be affected. To put it simply, the heavenly god Gong and this world were now bound together for good or ill. Closely related. The more powerful this world became, the more benefits he would receive, and the more powerful he would become. Heavenly Yuan Holy Child. This was not only a title, but also a symbol. The flower of Qi above the heavenly god Gong's head was actually larger than a washbasin. It was much larger than the Ghost King Jesse's 2 flowers of the extreme realm, which were only the size of a palm. Although this washbasin-sized flower of the extreme realm was only an illusory image, and was not solid enough. The aura it emitted was extremely terrifying. The size of the flower of the extreme realm was closely related to one's extreme realm. If it was larger than a wash basin, it would be many times larger than a palm. The Ghost King of the Ghost Beast tribe looked at the heavenly god Gong and was stunned when he saw the wash basin-sized flower of the extreme realm above his head. His ferocious eyes were filled with astonishment. Such a large flower of the extreme realm was truly astonishing. Only the Ghost Kings of the powerful tribes could condense such a large flower of the extreme realm. Chapter 1861. Dark clouds loomed over Taiji City's territory. Thick malice swept over like an avalanche. Standing on the outer city walls, everyone could already see a large mass of darkness rushing over. It was the Ghost Race army. "They're here! They're here! Everyone, get ready and wait for orders!" It was impossible for 1,500 people to fight against the Ghost Race army that numbered in the tens of thousands, unless all of them had 9-star battle prowess. But that was impossible now. Compared to before, there were more 9-star battle prowess, but there were only about 10 of them. There were 2 reasons why they had to fight against the Ghost Race army. First, there was no way out. Second, they had to rely on the treasures they obtained from the Void Temple to resist as much as possible. However, the Purgatory Ghosts were different from the Void Demons. Therefore, it was hard to say how effective they would be. At this point, there was nothing more to be said. They could only fight. There are more than 10,000 Purgatory Ghosts. I estimate there are close to 100,000. Everyone's faces paled. The difference between 10,000 and 100,000 was obvious. We have to fight regardless of whether there are 10,000 or 100,000. Get ready. UNG Alliance Master's eyes were cold. His voice rang out. Attack. At his command, rays of light suddenly flashed from the Ghost Race armies left and right, above and below them. The rays of light were of different colors. They flickered like 7 colors. In just an instant they spread out like a scroll. 7-colored light filled the air from all directions, extending continuously as if it was about to turn into a cage, trapping the Ghost Clan. Fire! In an instant 300 giant crossbows shot through the air. The crossbows couldn't be seen. There were only 300 straight streaks across the sky, leaving behind 300 tiny cracks. The Void Demon-slaying crossbows that were fully charged had the power to threaten 9-star battle prowess. It was extremely shocking. After all, the Void Demon's invasion was the strongest in the Void battlefield in the Void realm. The Void Demon-slaying crossbows were a new type of war weapon that had been developed in recent years. However, while it was powerful, it also meant that it was difficult to make. 300 crossbows were the limit that the various factions in the Void realm could trade with the Void Temple. The most difficult part of the Void Demon-slaying crossbow was not the crossbow itself, but the crossbow bolt. The craftsmanship of every crossbow arrow was very complicated and required a lot of resources. In other words, due to the difficulty of forging, the price of the crossbow bolts was extremely high. The price to pay was also extremely high. In other words, 300 Void Demon-slaying crossbows could only fire 1 round. After that, they would become mere decorations. He could only hope that the 300 devil-slaying crossbows would be able to kill as many purgatory ghouls as possible. In the blink of an eye, 300 demon-slaying crossbows tore through the sky and shot towards the army of ghosts like 300 auroras. Too fast. The Ghost Clan's army was close to 100,000 in number, forming a huge black mass. Naturally, the Ghost Generals were at the forefront of the army. The upper-level Ghost General's reaction was extremely fast. Facing the demon-slaying crossbow, he could sense the terrifying power contained within it and did not hesitate to dodge. Because if he didn't dodge, he might be severely injured. While the upper-level Ghost General dodged, The middle and lower-level ghost generals could not dodge and were hit in an instant. The structure of the demon-slaying crossbow was unique. Not only was it extremely hard and difficult to break, but the tip of the crossbow also contained a unique power that had an unparalleled penetrating power. Once pierced, a trace of terrifying power would be left behind and wreak havoc, destroying the body. From the appearance of the rainbow cage to the suppression of the Ghost Clan army to the shooting of the 300 demon-slaying crossbows, it took less than a breath's time. The Ghost Clan knew that the humans would definitely counterattack, but they did not expect it to be such a counterattack. In the blink of an eye, the Ghost Generals were pierced through one after another, or had their arms and legs broken. The two Ghost Kings of the Ghost Forest tribe, Ghost Forest Jesse and Ghost Forest Jialuo, were also attacked by two demon-slaying crossbows. However, as experts at the peak of the demigod realm, although the demon-slaying crossbows were powerful, they were not threatened by them. Without dodging, they struck out instantly. The two extremely powerful demon-slaying crossbows were instantly smashed into pieces. Not only that, but the demon-slaying crossbows around them were also smashed by the two Ghost Kings, saving the rest of the Ghost Clan. Even so, there were still more than 200 demon-slaying crossbows. Each of the demon-slaying crossbows pierced through one Ghost Clan after another. As long as they were hit, regardless of whether they were pierced through or injured, they would be destroyed by the power of the demon-slaying crossbows. The demon-slaying crossbows were weapons of war developed by the mysterious Void Temple. They possessed an extremely powerful power and seemed to be very effective against the Purgatory Ghost Clan. Only the upper-level Ghost Generals could truly resist the power of the demon-slaying crossbows. The middle Ghost Generals were instantly pierced through. As for the lower-level Ghost Generals and Ghost Soldiers, needless to say, they were irresistible. Piercing, piercing, piercing. As the crossbows pierced through, the power contained in each of them was greatly consumed. Finally, when the crossbows were exhausted and stopped, the last trace of power detonated the crossbows. Boom, 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 boom. Beams of terrifying power instantly shot out in all directions from the exploding crossbows. It was like a flash flood or an earthquake. The power of the explosion was so strong that fine cracks appeared in the void around them. The cracks spread rapidly and covered a radius of 100 meters. Once they were affected, even the strong bodies of the Purgatory Ghost Clan would be destroyed and they would die. The 1,500 Ghost Clan members all stared with their eyes wide open as if they were watching a magnificent fireworks show. More than 200 demon-slaying crossbows exploded within the army of the Ghost Clan. The power was extremely terrifying. Each of the crossbows could cover a radius of 100 meters and destroy everything in its path. Even with the strength of the two Ghost Kings, they could only suppress a small number of Ghost Clan members. As such, the army of the Ghost Clan immediately suffered many casualties. Each demon-slaying crossbow pierced through at least 20 to 30 Ghost Clan members and at most, up to 100 Ghost Clan members. It displayed shocking power and killed thousands of Ghost Clan members. After the explosion, it covered a radius of 100 meters. Although many Ghost Clan members reacted quickly and dodged, some of them were still affected and their strong bodies were destroyed in an instant. More than 10,000 Ghost Clan members were killed. In total, there were more than 20,000 Ghost Clan members dead. It was only one round of attacks from the demon-slaying crossbows, but it had killed more than 20,000 Ghost Clan members. Such a battle record was extremely shocking. If there were a few thousand more demon-slaying crossbows, they might be able to kill all the Ghost Clan members. But that was just wishful thinking. The resources of the various forces in the Void Temple could not even reach 1,000 demon-slaying crossbows, let alone a few thousand. Being able to trade for 300 crossbows this time was already the limit of the Void Temple. In this way, they could already kill nearly 20,000 Purgatory Ghost Clan members in one go. The power was extremely shocking. The 1,500 Ghost Clan members on the city wall were all dumbfounded. The power was so strong. They could only use the word terrifying to describe it. The two Ghost Kings were also astonished. In just one exchange, more than 20,000 Ghost Clan members had died. The loss was not small. It could be said to be disastrous. The human clan had such means. Why hadn't they used it before? Shock. Anger. The 20,000 Ghost Clan members who were killed left behind more than 20,000 strands of origin essence. They flew out of the city and merged into the bodies of the 1,500 Ghost Clan members. The charging of the 300 demon-slaying crossbows was done over and over again by the Ghost Clan members. For a time, some obtained a few strands of origin essence, some obtained more than a dozen strands, and some more. Chen Xiu alone obtained hundreds of strands of origin essence. Unfortunately, these strands of origin essence were useless to him. He could leave them for his true body. After obtaining the strands of origin essence, the Ghost Clan members did not hesitate to refine and absorb part of them to improve their cultivation and combat strength. They left a small portion for backup. The strands of origin essence could not only improve cultivation, but also heal injuries. First, it was the suppression of the seven-colored cage that limited the Ghost Clan's reaction. Then, it was the demon-slaying crossbows that caused more than 20,000 Ghost Clan members to die. Although the casualties were great, it was nothing to the nearly 100,000 Ghost Clan members. At least, they still had more than 70,000 Ghost Clan members left. Kill! The two Ghost Kings roared. Their murderous intent filled the air. The remaining Ghost Clan members regrouped and pushed forward. The horrifying murderous intent wreaked havoc like a destructive tide. Load the crossbows! UNG Alliance Master ordered at once. In an instant, 300 more crossbows were loaded. These were not demon-slaying crossbows. They were just ordinary crossbows that could threaten a 6-star warrior at most. They were also exchanged from the Void Temple, so their value was much lower. However, these crossbows were superior in quantity. After careful calculation, it was the most reasonable trade. Shoot, shoot, shoot. In the first round, they had killed more than 20,000 Ghost Clan members and obtained a lot of origin essence. It was a great motivation for anyone. They were full of motivation, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They kept taking out and loading the crossbows. They did not even need to aim. They just shot. In a short time, they could shoot out 3 crossbows. Each of the bolts carried great power. Even a low-ranked ghost general would be injured if he was hit head-on. Compared to the demon-slaying crossbows, these bolts were much weaker. Even if they hit the ghost soldiers, they could only kill one of them. They could not pierce through the ghost soldiers, let alone explode. The Ghost Clan members were densely packed. They attacked like a storm. At the same time, Chen Zong followed closely behind them. A long sword at the level of a divine instrument could be easily broken. It was not as useful as the heart sword Dao intent. Kill. Chen Zong moved like a puff of smoke. He was extremely light and swift. He seemed to be illusory, and he was soundless. He killed with his sword. Coming from behind, one man and one sword could not be resisted at all. Every time he killed a Ghost Clan member, Chen Zong would obtain a strand of origin essence, which he used to improve his physique cultivation. As the army advanced, Chen Zong's final attack went unnoticed. The two Ghost Kings were furious. Their killing intent covered the sky. However, they only targeted the front. They did not notice the back. They did not think that someone would be bold enough to follow behind them and attack them. He had killed hundreds of ghosts, but they were all at the level of ghost soldiers. Their origin essence was unable to significantly improve his body refinement cultivation. In addition, ghost soldiers were ghost soldiers after all. Ghost generals were more threatening. Seamless yin and yang. Indefinite void. Chapter 1862. Kill, 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 kill. One after another, The ghost generals were killed by Chen Zong's sword. None of the ghost generals, no matter if they were lower, middle or upper, could withstand Chen Zong's sword. Under the yin-yang seamless body technique, Chen Zong moved swiftly and silently like a ghost. In a short period of time, hundreds of ghost soldiers and dozens of ghost generals died under Chen Zong's sword. The origin essence also allowed Chen Zong to feel that his body refining cultivation had improved further. However, Chen Zong was also exposed. However, this was within his expectations. Chen Zong did not panic at all. In front of him was the powerful crossbow arrows that were constantly shooting from the outside of Taiji City. Although they could not kill the ghost generals, they could more or less cause some obstruction. Chen Xiu held his sword in front of him and placed the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl close to his chest. The Divine Fiend Azura battle technique was constantly circulating and absorbing the power of the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl. At the same time, it was also constantly increasing his own cultivation. Chen Xiu was very clear about the actions of the original body, Chen Zong. Immediately, Chen Xiu's figure disappeared from the city wall. He had already turned into a gray lightning bolt that tore through the sky and rapidly approached the Ghost Clan army. It looked like a moth flying into a flame. In an instant, Chen Xiu crossed thousands of meters and approached the Ghost Clan army. Even though he was only one person and one sword, he was not afraid. Ghost Sun Jess noticed Chen Zong, who was attacking the Ghost Clan army, and also noticed Chen Xiu, who was charging over alone with a sword. Anger. Ghost Sun Jess was furious. Originally, because of the heavy losses of the Ghost Clan army, his heart was already filled with anger and killing intent. Now that he saw these two humans who had defeated him one after another, it was like adding oil to the fire. That kind of anger was simply indescribable. Killing intent and anger, like the magma of a 1,000-year-old volcano, erupted in an instant. It was extremely dense and turned into a shocking flame that burned on the Ghost King's body. Kill. In the sky above his head, 2 flowers of extreme state condensed and the Ghost Claw attacked. This attack directly towards Chen Xiu. Chen Xiu's eyelids twitched slightly, and his body was torn apart. It was an illusion. There were still 9 battle stars above Chen Zong's head. The 9 shining golden battle stars were connected to each other, but they did not condense into a flower of extreme, nor did they condense into a blazing sun like Chen Zong. In other words, Chen Xiu's combat strength was still at the peak of the 9-star level. However, he was still at the peak of the 9-star level and not at the peak of the demigod level. But this time, he was surpassed by his true self. Without the combat power of a demigod, it would be difficult to truly contend against a Ghost King, let alone a Ghost King with 2 flowers of extreme state. Fortunately, the Azura phantom body had been perfected to the extreme. One of the illusory bodies was killed, but 8 more appeared in an instant and charged toward the army of the Ghost Clan. His true body, however, was erratic. Jie Luo, kill them! Ghost Sun Jess roared. Last time, he was the only one who suffered a great loss. This time there was Jie Luo. Jie Luo's strength was much stronger than his. At the same time, Chen Xiu's true body charged into the army of the Ghost Clan while Chen Zong charged forward. The 2 sides instantly came into contact. The moment they came into contact, the essence of the Ghost Clan's origin that Chen Xiu obtained rushed into Chen Zong's body. There were hundreds, almost 1,000 strands. The essence of the Ghost Clan's origin was enough to further improve Chen Zong's body refinement and make him even stronger. His true self met up with his doppelganger and immediately went on a killing spree, killing almost 10 more ghost generals. Spoiler: Chen Zong and Chen Xiu were like 2 spoilers who directly disrupted the arrangement of the Ghost Clan's army. That's Jindy. Jindy actually killed its way into the Ghost Clan's army. For a moment, everyone on the city wall stared with their eyes wide open in shock. No wonder Lord Jindy and Lord Sword Demon are brothers. They're really powerful. For a moment, while everyone was shocked, they were also motivated to fight. Crossbow bolts shot out continuously, killing the ghost soldiers one after another. For a moment, the Ghost Clan's army advanced. Although they had not killed a single human, they had already suffered significant losses. This made the two Ghost Kings even more furious. Immediately, the ghosts around Chen Zong and Chen Xiu dispersed, and the two Ghost Kings personally attacked. However, both Chen Zong and Chen Xiu were extremely agile. One used the yin-yang seamless body technique, while the other used the Azura apparition and charged into the Ghost Clan's army again. While killing the ghosts, they used the ghosts as cover. Their powerful combat strength allowed Chen Zong and Chen Xiu to move like fish in water within the Ghost Clan's army. Their agile body techniques also prevented them from being heavily surrounded, allowing them to advance and retreat freely. Unless the Ghost Clan could set up a battle formation like the humans, it would not be easy to surround Chen Zong and Chen Xiu. Of course, Chen Zong and Chen Xiu could not cause significant damage to the ghosts while constantly moving around. They could only kill some ghosts along the way. Chen Zong could feel that as he continued to refine the Ghost Clan's origin essence, his body-refining cultivation had improved once again. His entire body was filled with powerful strength. Every muscle, every tendon, every meridian, every muscle was pulsating and becoming tighter. Anger. Extreme anger. Extreme anger. Jesse turned into a ray of black light and charged towards Chen Xiu. His ghost claw tore through the air, tearing the world apart. The ghost claw swept across the sky, and black light filled the air. Shocking murderous intent tore through the world. Jesse, who was in a rage, seemed to have lost his mind. He no longer cared about the lives of the ghosts and attacked together with Chen Xiu. The ghosts quickly retreated, but some who could not retreat in time were affected. Their bodies were instantly torn apart by the ghost claw, and they died immediately. However, the ghosts around Chen Zong made a different choice. They rushed towards Chen Zong directly. A black mass of ghosts piled up from all directions, as if they were seeking their own deaths. Jia Luo of Ghost Forest also made his move. Jesse's weapon was a pair of claws, while Jesse's weapon was a pitch-black giant axe. The handle of the giant axe was slightly bent, like a naturally bent tree branch. The blade of the axe was huge, more than a meter long. The back of the axe was thick and heavy. It looked like it was extremely heavy, but in the hands of the Ghost King, it was as light as a feather. Above Jesse's head, there were two flowers of extreme state. One was blood red and the other was brown. Both flowers of extreme state were palm-sized, but they were very solid. This meant that Jesse's combat strength was even greater than the other Ghost Kings. In just an instant, Gui Xingjia Luo waved his giant axe and chopped down. The giant axe was so violent that it tore apart the void in an instant, creating a terrifying spatial crack as it silently chopped down. The ghost generals paid the price with their lives. They charged towards Chen Zong, surrounding him with all their might. It was all for the sake of letting Jia Luo slash out with his axe, directly hitting and killing him. Their hair stood on end. Jesse's combat strength was much greater than the other Ghost Kings. When the axe fell, Chen Zong's hair stood on end. Seamless yin and yang. Indefinite, illusory, and corporeal. To kill the ghost generals that surrounded him, Chen Zong immediately used his movement technique to the extreme. In an instant, his body turned from corporeal to corporeal. A group of ghost generals could not truly surround Chen Zong, even if they paid the price with their lives. This was the difference between their levels. How could a group of ants surround an elephant? An elephant could trample many ants to death with a single step, and it would be difficult for the ants to catch up. Of course, the difference between the ghost generals and Chen Zong was not that big, but it was not small either. The moment Chen Zong turned from corporeal to corporeal, his body was also slashed by the Ghost King's axe. A terrifying spatial crack appeared where he was. It was a shocking sight, and it emitted a terrifying power that swallowed up the ghost generals who could not dodge in time. Chen Zong couldn't help but be secretly shocked. The axe's power was too terrifying. If he was hit, he would definitely die. As for facing it head-on, Chen Zong was not very confident. Chen Xiu was targeted by the Ghost Forest Jesse, while Chen Zong was targeted by the Ghost Forest Jesse. The pressure from the two Ghost Kings was very obvious. As for the other ghosts, they all charged toward the outer city of Taiji City. They're here. UNG Alliance Leader, Xiankong Alliance Leader, Sanctuary Alliance Leader, and other 9-star experts stood in a row at the front. They could clearly feel the terrifying aura of the ghost army charging toward them. The wind and clouds surged, and the mountains and seas were overturned. Although more than 20,000 of them had been killed, and they were scattered for a while, the purgatory ghosts were indeed a fighting race. Without Chen Zong and Chen Xiu's destruction, they quickly regrouped and charged in formation. The crossbow bolts continued to shoot out. However, the Ghost Clan army was getting closer. They only needed 2 breaths of time to reach the outer city. Then, they would destroy the outer city like a torrent of steel, along with the cultivators in the outer city. The difference between more than 1,000 people and tens of thousands of people was too great. Moreover, the cultivators did not have any advantage in terms of individual combat power. 7-colored barrier, the Sanctuary Alliance leader roared. In an instant, a 7-colored light flickered on the outer city. Strands of light gathered like flowing water. 1 breath's time. There was only 1 breath's time left before the ghost army charged toward them. Every ghost's ferocious face was ferocious. Their eyes were red, and they were filled with shocking killing intent. As the 7-colored light flickered, it quickly gathered and finally condensed into strange hexagons one after another. Each hexagon was connected to each other and spread out rapidly like a picture scroll, blocking the outer city and in front of everyone. At the same time, the ghost army charged at full speed. Every ghost raised the weapon in their hands and charged forward with all their strength. Boom! The charge of thousands of soldiers and horses was extremely terrifying, but they all crashed into the hexagonal barrier that flickered with 7-colored light. The barrier seemed to be extremely tough, and it caved in toward the cultivators. The 7-colored light flickered wildly, and it seemed like it would shatter at any time. Every cultivator stared with their eyes wide open. They were extremely nervous. Whether the 7-colored barrier could stop the ghost army's charge was extremely crucial. It would affect the battle later. If it could not stop the ghost army, they would not be able to do anything in front of the ghost army. They would be drowned by the ghost army in an instant, and they would all be killed in a short time. Even a 9-star powerhouse would not be able to survive the attack. Hang in there. Chapter 1863. Oh no, Little Rice Dumpling's sword is broken again. Give me a monthly ticket to buy a new sword. The Rainbow Barrier. This was a special combination of a seal and a formation that the Void Temple had spent a lot of resources to trade for from the mysterious Void Temple. Once it was set up and activated, it could release an amazing power to defend against strong attacks. If they did not gather the resources of the 3 alliances, they would not have been able to trade for it from the Void Temple. It could be said that the Void Demon-Slaying Crossbow was the first step for the Human Cultivators Alliance to deal with the Purgatory Ghost Clan, and the Rainbow Barrier was the last step. Since the Void Demon-Slaying Crossbow had worked, it gave everyone great confidence. They also hoped that the Rainbow Barrier would work and block the Ghost Clan army's attack. Kill! At the command, 1,500 cultivators immediately mustered all their strength and attacked. They did not show any mercy. The Rainbow Barrier unleashed its strongest power and blocked the Ghost Clan army's attack. The cultivators also took the opportunity to attack the ghosts with all their might. They killed hundreds of ghosts in an instant. Kill, 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 kill. They continuously unleashed their powerful power and attacked while the Ghost Clan army was blocked. They killed more than 1,000 ghosts in an instant. The rainbow barrier seemed to have reached its limit and started to rebound. Boom! In an instant, the rainbow barrier became violent. It flickered continuously and suddenly bounced back. Immediately, all the ghosts in the front were bounced back and collided with the other ghosts behind them. The ghosts in the back were bounced back. For a moment, those who could not react in time crashed into each other. Their tendons and bones were broken, and blood splattered everywhere. The more serious ones even died. In an instant, the Ghost Clan army was scattered. We did it! The cultivators were overjoyed. The origin of the Void Temple was very mysterious. It seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. After it appeared, it never participated in the conflicts between the various forces. There had been forces that wanted to attack the Void Temple, but they were destroyed in the end. This made people know that the Void Temple was not to be offended. It was a very terrifying existence. Thus, the Void Temple became more and more mysterious in the eyes of the cultivators in the Tianyuan sacred territory. The Void demon-slaying crossbow had proven its power. Now, the rainbow barrier had also begun to prove its power. This made everyone more confident. Relying on the defense of the seven-colored barrier, the human cultivators continued to attack and became more and more motivated. When a ghost was killed, their origin essence would appear and be absorbed by the cultivator to recover their cultivation and provide them with the power to attack again. With the help of the rainbow barrier, the human race was able to block the ghost race's assault for a while. However, due to the disparity in numbers, it was unknown how long the seven-colored barrier could last. They could only take advantage of this opportunity to kill as many ghosts as possible and weaken their military power and strength. Once the seven-colored barrier was broken, over 1,000 human cultivators would be defenseless before the Ghost Clan army. At that time, there was an 80 to 90% chance that they would be defeated and killed. However, one was enough to break even. Killing 2 was a profit, and killing 10 was a huge profit. Now, the total number of ghosts that they had killed was close to 30,000. Now that things had calmed down, everyone had profited greatly. After obtaining a large amount of Ghost Clan origin essence, everyone's battle prowess had increased by quite a bit. On the other side, Ghost Son Jesse was constantly chasing after Chen Xiu. Chen Xiu's battle prowess had not reached the level of a demigod, and it was difficult for him to fight head-on. He could only use the Azura apparition continuously. 9 apparitions and 1 real body, it was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. They attacked Ghost Son Jesse from all directions. The apparitions were constantly defeated, and the real body was constantly switching between the apparitions. His movement technique was extremely brilliant, and Ghost Son Jesse could not hit him for a while. Anger. Ghost Son Jesse was furious. Ever since he met this human, he had never felt good. It was the same before, and it was the same now. Ghost Son Jesse waved his claws continuously, tearing the surroundings apart, and terrifying cracks appeared on the Kong family. The astral winds roared endlessly, and the destructive aura was extremely shocking. Chen Xiu's apparition collapsed and disappeared in an instant. The real body was constantly switching between the apparitions, waiting for an opportunity to attack. Evil Shadow. The sword light was extremely fast, and it hit Ghost Son Jesse's body, but it was blocked by the armor. It only pierced through the armor, but it could not really pierce Ghost Son Jesse's body. Another point was that the Nirvana Evil Sword had not recovered to the level where it could really affect a Ghost King. If not, as long as he took a risk and injured Ghost Son Jesse, he could use the Nirvana Evil Sword to devour his life force and slowly exhaust him to death. As of now, if the Nirvana Evil Sword wanted to have the power to threaten a Ghost King, it would need to devour a lot of life force. It would be best if it was the life force of the Void Demon, as that was undoubtedly the most suitable source for the Nirvana Evil Sword to recover its power. Circling. Chun Xiu kept circling with Ghost Sun Jesse, and at the same time, he was also using the pressure brought by Ghost Sun Jesse to train himself. The Divine Fiend Azura battle technique kept circulating, and the power of the Divine Fiend Origin Pearl was also constantly being absorbed and refined. At the same time, Chun Xiu was recovering the power that he had consumed, and at the same time, increasing the cultivation speed of the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique bit by bit. The Divine Fiend Azura battle technique, with the name of battle technique, it explained the nature of this cultivation technique. That was battle. Breakthrough in battle. Since it was a battle, of course, it had to be a battle with enough intensity and pressure. Chun Xiu had already made up his mind. This time, even if the Ghost Tribe did not attack, he planned to take the initiative to attack, find a Ghost King to battle, and use the power of the Ghost King to suppress himself and stimulate his potential, so that he could break through the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique in a shorter period of time, and raise the level of the cultivation technique. Once the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique was raised to the 5th level, his cultivation would increase greatly, and the power of his Divine Fiend fighting power would also increase greatly. At that time, his fighting power might even reach the level of a demigod. Chun Xiu kept circling with Ghost Sun Jesse, while Chun Zong fought with the stronger Ghost Sun Jesse. Jesse's fighting power was much higher than Jesse's, at least more than 50%. The fighting power of a Ghost King was more than 50%, and it was undoubtedly very scary. Every time the giant axe slashed out, it released a terrifying power. After a probing collision, Chun Zong immediately understood that this Ghost King's power was even more condensed than the other Ghost King, making it even more difficult to deal with. The power of this Ghost King was too strong. Even if Chun Zong's cultivation had increased greatly, he still could not compare to it. Moreover, this Ghost King's fighting power was amazing. The giant axe in his hand seemed to be very light, and he could slash out hundreds of axe shadows in an instant. Each shadow had a terrifying power, and it tore through the void. Too strong. Chun Zong's face was serious. If this continued, he would not be able to do anything to the other Ghost King, and Chun Xiu would not be able to do anything to the other Ghost King. If the 7-colored barrier of the human cultivators was broken, they would not be able to withstand the attack of the Ghost Tribe army. Then, he would use all his strength and risk his life to see if he could kill this Ghost King. At the very least, he had to severely injure it and force it to retreat. Lesser Royal Divine Weapon. In an instant, 6 rays of black light appeared around Chun Zong's body. Golden light also spread out from his body. That was the unbreakable golden body. Close in. Sword out. In the blink of an eye, Chun Zong performed the 3 ultimate moves of the Sword Will Sword Stream. The sword radiance was as bright as the sun in the void. Then, it exploded and turned into a shocking vacuum crack. In an instant, it blasted toward Ghost Forest Jia Luo. The powerful Ghost Forest Jia Luo had no intention of dodging. His face was full of ferocious laughter. He raised his giant axe high, and a terrifying power condensed on the axe. Chop! It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Royal Divine Weapon. In an instant, the 6 lesser Royal Divine Weapons, under the control of Chun Zong, immediately drew an arc. But their speed was faster than a straight line, and the angle was more tricky. Attack break. The 6 lesser Royal Divine Weapons instantly merged into an even larger ray of black light. It directly tore a long and ferocious crack in the void, and with great power, it mercilessly blasted toward Ghost Forest Jia Luo's head from the side. Following that was the most powerful attack. Chun Zong's expression was solemn. His pupils contracted to the size of needles, and all of his Taichu sword origin was mobilized. The power of the sword will of the heart was fully unleashed. This was the most powerful attack and also the most powerful one. Vacuum. Death cut. The sword radiance shone to the extreme, like an exploding sun. The light that burst out instantly lit up the entire battlefield. Kill. Chunzong wanted to kill the Ghost King. Even if he couldn't kill him, he wanted to severely injure him. Otherwise, even if he had a good result now, the human clan would be defeated sooner or later. The result of the defeat would be that the human clan in Taiji City would be slaughtered and devoured. There was no turning back. First was the 3 ultimate moves of the Sword Will Sword Stream, followed by the Royal Divine Attack, and finally the Death Cut of the Vacuum. Each attack was more powerful than the last. The Ghost King was suddenly faced with a powerful attack. No matter which attack it was, it had the power to injure it. As the giant axe fell, the power of the 3 moves of the Will Sword Stream immediately trembled and dissipated. The moment the giant axe bounced up, it immediately drew an extremely stunning arc. Under the arc, there was a pitch-black darkness that made one's heart palpitate. In an instant it was as if they had entered a silent world. The giant axe and the royal divine attack collided. Chunzong only felt his consciousness tremble. In his spirit sea, a terrible storm raged. It was turbulent, and his head felt like it was about to be torn apart. But in an instant, Chunzong activated the state of freedom and ignored the turbulence in his spirit sea. He was absolutely calm, and the death cut of the vacuum mercilessly attacked the Ghost King. Hit! In an instant, the terrifying sword radiance hit Jia Luo of the Ghost Forest, immediately splitting open the armor on his chest. Like a hot knife through butter, the sword radiance cleaved open the chest covered by the armor, leaving a shocking sword scar. Severe injury. In an instant, the Ghost King was severely injured by Chunzong. However, the giant axe was raised high. The Ghost King's horn flashed red, and the axe blade was suffused with a blazing red light. Ghost King Annihilation Cut. Cut. The axe carried with it a terrifying power that could cut open a natural chasm. The surroundings were suppressed, and Chunzong could not dodge at all. He could not even use the yin-yang seamless body technique. Then, he could only defend. Yin-yang sword wheel. But in the instant of contact, an indescribably fierce force shattered the sword wheel. He did not even have time to use the reversal of heaven and earth. The longsword formed by the sword will of the heart sword swung and collided with the giant axe. Chapter 1864. Not only the sword, but also the head. Don't tell me you won't vote for the little dumpling's strength? Cracks appeared, and the cracking sound was faint, but to Chunzong it was like thunder. The cracks on the heart sword Dao will spread all over the sword in the blink of an eye. More cracks appeared, covering every part of the sword. Shattered. The heart sword Dao will shattered. The moment it shattered, Chunzong felt cracks appear on his spirit sea, as if it was about to shatter. Intense pain swept over him, as if his soul was being torn apart. It was as if his entire soul was being torn apart. Even his mind and body were being torn apart, completely torn apart. The heart sword Dao will was comprehended by Chunzong. It was closely related to his soul, consciousness, and mind. Once injured, his soul, consciousness, and so on would also be affected. In serious cases, it might even shatter. This was a fatal injury, more than 10 times more serious than physical damage. The intense pain directly shattered Chunzong's realm of freedom. He could not maintain it. His head seemed to explode, and his spirit sea was filled with countless cracks. His soul seemed to be cut by invisible blades, and he could not maintain his composure. Even bewildering Light Island lost its connection. In other words, Chunzong could not use this trump card to leave. The Ghost King, who was hit by Chunzong's absolute vacuum slash, had a slash across his chest. Even his sternum was broken, and the slash went all the way to his back. The power of the absolute vacuum slash was unimaginable. If it were an ultimate human demigod, such a slash would be enough to kill him. However, the Purgatory Ghost King's body was tough, and his vitality was incomparably tenacious. He did not die immediately, and even counterattacked in an instant, slashing out a terrifying attack that contained the light of destruction. That power was even stronger than the absolute vacuum slash. Otherwise, it would not be able to shatter the heart sword Dao will. Even so, this injury was very serious. If it was not treated in time, he would probably die on the spot. Without hesitation, the Purgatory Ghost King mobilized his power and opened a small Purgatory Ghost Gate. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, the miniature Purgatory Ghost Gate behind the Purgatory Ghost King continued to solidify. It looked like it would be fully solidified in a few breaths' time. At that time, the Purgatory Ghost King would be able to use the miniature Purgatory Ghost Gate to absorb the power of the Purgatory Ghost Realm and recover from his injuries. Once his injuries recovered, it would be the time of Chen Zong's death. Even now, Chen Zong was on the verge of death. Now that the Dao intent of the Heart Sword had reached 100% perfection, its connection with one's soul and consciousness had become even more intimate. When it shattered, it would affect one's consciousness and soul. In an instant, his consciousness seemed to shatter, and cracks appeared on his soul. It was a ghastly sight. Excruciating pain. Out of control. Chen Zong could no longer maintain his balance. His whole body swayed a few thousand meters in the air. Then, he fell headfirst and fell rapidly. Even with Chen Zong's strong physique, he would not be able to resist falling from a height of thousands of meters without any protection. Coupled with the injury to his soul, he would most likely die. This scene caused everyone to fall into despair. Jiandi Chen Zong. This was a symbol. If he died here, it would be an indescribable blow to everyone. Chen Xiu was anxious. Although Chen Zong's clone would not be affected if he died, and would replace the original body could not die no matter what. Azura Phantom Body. The 9 phantoms rushed towards Jesse, while the original body rushed towards Chen Zong at an astonishing speed. At least, he had to catch Chen Zong. Stop right there. Jesse was in an incomparably good mood. The human was about to die. This feeling was very, very good. No matter what, it could not be destroyed. He unleashed all his strength. Thousands of ghost claws covered the sky, and the 9 phantoms were torn apart in an instant. Jesse's figure flashed, and his claw slashed across the sky. This attack was shockingly powerful. If he did not dodge, he would be hit. At that time, this clone would also die. Dodge. As soon as he dodged, the time was delayed again. Chen Zong seemed to have lost his consciousness. His body fell upside down, and he was only 2,000 meters away from the ground. The distance of 2,000 meters was actually very short. It was estimated that he would fall completely in about 10 breaths, and there was more than a 70% chance that he would die. Jesse unleashed all his strength, and his ghost claws continued to attack. His purpose was to prevent Chen Xiu from helping Chen Zong. Suddenly, Jesse's eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. He realized that he seemed to have done something wrong. Why did he have to stop this person? He just needed to be faster. The claw shadows contracted, and Jesse immediately burst out with an astonishing speed, crossing the void and rushing towards the falling Chen Zong. The claw shadows condensed into a cold light, silently tearing the void. Extremely fast. The distance of tens of thousands of meters could be crossed in an instant. In a situation where he was almost unconscious, Chen Zong could not dodge at all. Once he was hit, his body would be torn into 2 in an instant, and he would die completely. The place where Chen Zong and Jesse fought was far away from the place where Chen Zong and Jesse fought. It was at least tens of thousands of meters away, so that they would not interfere with each other. Crisis. An intense and unprecedented crisis lingered in Chen Zong's heart and erupted crazily. The cracks on his soul were all over, like a porcelain that had been hit. It was barely maintaining a shape. It seemed that, with a little external impact, it would really break. Once the soul was really broken, it would collapse and die. There was no way to escape death. At that time, even God would not be able to save him. His consciousness was also on the verge of collapse. It was like a candle flame in the wind, being blown by a gust of wind, swaying and becoming weak, almost extinguished. But in an instant the extremely shocking and bone-chilling murderous intent rushed over, causing the candle flame to suddenly tremble. Not only did it resist the attack of the gust of wind, but it did not extinguish. Instead, it burned more vigorously. It was like the final radiance of the setting sun. Tenacious. Tenacious. Even if he was on the verge of despair, Chern Zong did not give up. He sought a glimmer of hope in the desperate situation. No matter what, as long as he was still alive, as long as he had a breath, as long as he had a little bit of consciousness, no matter how blurry it was, he could not give up. He had to hold on. Live. He had to live. This was Chern Zong's astonishing will to live. It was erupting. However, the heart sword Tao will was broken, and his soul was full of cracks. This kind of injury was extremely serious. No matter how strong Chern Zong's will to live was, he could not completely react in time. Dodge. No matter what, he had to dodge this fatal blow. The black claw light was like a long knife cutting through the air. At that moment, Chern Zong used the last bit of consciousness he had left to stimulate an unparalleled desperate will. His falling body paused for a moment. This pause didn't even last for a tenth of a breath's time. However, it just so happened that the claw light shot past his body. That less than 1/10 of a breath was the difference between life and death. As if he had lost all his strength, Chern Zong's body fell again. Ghost Son Jesse was slightly startled. He didn't expect that his fatal blow would be dodged under such circumstances. However, even if he could avoid one blow, could he avoid two? Anger. Violent anger. Extreme anger. On Chern Xiu's body, gray light and flames were burning, turning into a gray armor that seemed to grow out of his body. Raging Shura. His dignity was seriously damaged, and he was on the verge of death. This greatly stimulated the anger in Chern Xiu's heart. His anger soared, and in an instant, he stimulated the raging Shura form, and his battle strength soared. 9 golden stars condensed into a golden sun in an instant. The sunlight shone in all directions, and it was extremely shocking and dazzling. Boom! Chern Xiu's speed in the raging Shura form was more than doubled. His figure moved, and he turned into a gray light that broke through the air. Countless dark cracks appeared where he was standing. Power! Extremely powerful power surged in his body, as if it contained volcanoes that kept erupting. He had to vent it, or else he would feel like he was going to explode. The Nirvana evil sword became wider and longer, and it was filled with shocking power. Slash. As the sword slashed down, the void trembled and crumbled. It was as if Chern Xiu was not wielding a sword, but a giant hammer that shattered the void. Ghost Son Jace's expression changed drastically. This sword was enough to threaten him. If he was hit, he would definitely be injured. Dodge. Unexpectedly, Chern Xiu's sword was not only powerful, but its speed was also shocking. It continuously attacked, forcing Ghost Son Jace to dodge continuously, unable to counterattack. At this time, Ghost Son Jace had opened a small Purgatory Ghost Gate, and used the power of the Purgatory Ghost Gate to recover his body. The shocking sword wound on his chest, that went all the way to his back, was quickly recovering. Not long after, the injury was healed, and so was the armor. The energy that was consumed in the previous battle was also recovered to the extreme. Kill. Ghost Son Jace attacked again, and he attacked Chern Zong, who was still falling. A gray light flashed, and like a thunderbolt, Chern Xiu's sword arrived and blocked Ghost Son Jace's attack. 1 against 2. The fierce battle continued. Chern Xiu, in his raging Azura form, completely blocked Ghost Sun Jace and Ghost Sun Jace with a sword in his hand, preventing them from attacking Chen Zong. But at the same time, Chen Xiu could not divert his attention to catch Chen Zong. The pressure from the two Ghost Kings was too strong, and it almost suffocated him. Now, he could only block the two Ghost Kings' crazy attacks, and he could only hope that his original body could wake up and save himself. Every time Chen Xiu slashed out with his sword, the void would be shattered. The power was terrifying, and when the two Ghost Kings attacked, the power was also terrifying. Cracks appeared in the space around them, and it was pitch black. The wind roared, and the thunder shook the world. It was filled with a shocking destructive aura, as if it was going to destroy everything. The area within 1,000 meters had become a desolate area. Once someone below the peak of the demigod realm got close, even a 9-star expert would be severely injured, or even die on the spot. Time passed, and Chen Zong was still falling. He was getting closer and closer to the ground. His head was facing down, and below him was an extremely hard rock with fine sand sticking out of the ground. Chapter 1865. Little Rice Dumpling, I'm not dead. Are you guys disappointed or happy? 1,000 meters. 900 meters. 800 meters. When Chen Zong was 2,000 meters away from the ground, Jesse launched a fatal attack, but Chen Zong dodged it with his strong willpower. Chen Xiu was furious and activated the Raging Azura form. Jesse recovered from his injuries and attacked again. Chen Xiu, who was under the Raging Azura, was fighting against two Ghost Kings at the same time. He was holding back the two Ghost Kings, Jesse and Jieluo, so that they couldn't kill Chen Zong. However, they were also holding back Chen Zong. Everything happened too fast. In less than 10 breaths of time, there were so many changes that everyone almost fainted. 700 meters. 600 meters. 500 meters. Chen Zong struggled to open his eyes. He could see that the rock below him was extremely hard, and it seemed to be shining with a layer of metal. Will I die? Chen Zong could not help but ask himself. Images seemed to flash through his mind. There was a small lake, rippling under the moonlight. Every day at dawn, a young man would wake up early and go out to train himself with his strong willpower. That year, a stream of light fell from the sky and fell into the young man's head. From then on, his meridians were cleansed, and he was reborn. He made up for his lack of qi and blood, and he truly started the path of cultivation. His sword skills improved. That piece of land was left with the young man's footprints. He walked from the small town to the city, and from the small town to the big city. Step by step, he was lonely, but he was extremely determined. That long sword, the sword light, was as quiet as water, and it stunned the world, leaving behind countless exclamations and legends. Images unfolded like a scroll. Faces, happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy flashed before his eyes. They were his family, friends, and enemies. Was this the final radiance of the setting sun? It was said that people who were about to die would recall their past before they died. Was he going to die? No. He could not die. He could not die. He still had to go back and see his family and friends. He still had to enter the void of the universe and truly feel the vastness of the universe. He had to challenge more geniuses and reach a higher level. He absolutely could not die like this. In an instant, an even stronger will to live erupted from the deepest part of his body. It was a power that belonged to the heart. It was a power that truly belonged to the deepest part of the soul. It wasn't his mind, nor was it his will. Instead, it was a mysterious desire that came from the deepest part of his heart. Live on. No matter what, he had to survive. Not only did he have to survive, but he also had to grasp even greater power. After returning to the eastern continent of Blue Wave's world, he would take a look at his father, his little sister, his clan elder sister, the places where he had worked hard and struggled, and the people who had helped him. After that, He would have to venture into the void of the universe to see the wider world and more powerful opponent. The premise was that he had to live and live well. Bang bang bang! As this extremely strong desire grew from the depths of his heart, which had been gradually weakening, seemed to have been injected with a new force. His heartbeat became strong again. With every heartbeat, Chern Zong's body seemed to be injected with a new force. Vitality seemed to be growing and spreading in his body little by little. The trace of destiny of the eternal battle fort glowed faintly. The clear light of destiny of this side of the world also swayed endlessly in an instant. Like ripples in water, it became clearer and deeper. Immediately, traces of invisible and colorless energy gathered from all directions. It seemed to be vitality, but it also seemed to be not. It continuously poured into Chern Zong's body. After receiving this invisible energy, Chern Zong only felt that the vitality in his body was becoming more and more vigorous. The injuries on his body were also gradually recovering. His broken bones and broken arms were also covered by a cool aura and quickly recovered. Recovery! His body was recovering vitality at an astonishing speed. This energy was the energy of this side of the world. Under the astonishing will to live, some kind of mystery seemed to have been activated. It also attracted the energy of this side of the world to continuously pour into Chern Zong's body. How profound and unfathomable was the power of the world! Even an eminent saint stage powerhouse would not be able to activate it directly. However, Chern Zong did it. Under the astonishing will to live, under the incomparably strong desire from the deepest part of his heart, and with the help of the trace of destiny of the eternal battle fort and the energy of this side of the world, he finally activated the energy of this side of the world and poured it into his body to rapidly recover his injuries. Chern Zong was surprised to find that not only were the injuries on his body recovering, but even the cracks on his soul were rapidly healed with the infusion of the energy of the world. This was not only on the surface but also on the inside. Recovery! The injuries on his body and soul were both healing. In an instant, Chern Zong's body paused slightly. He was still 100 meters away from the ground, but he was still standing in the air. He stopped. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. In less than 10 breaths of time, Chern Zong's injuries on his body were completely healed. The injuries on his soul were also 50% healed. At this speed, he would only need 10 more breaths of time to fully recover from the injuries on his soul. As the injuries on his soul healed, the cracks on the edge of his divine sea also disappeared. Even though the heart sword Tao intent had shattered, his injuries on his body, especially the injuries on his soul and divine sea, had recovered. It was a great fortune amidst the misfortune. Even though he had lost the heart sword Tao intent, he still had the yin-yang Tao intent and the fused wind, fire, and thunder Tao intent. He still had extraordinary potential. Although his strength would decrease in a short period of time, he would definitely recover and even surpass himself if he continued to cultivate. Chern Zong was confident about this. However, it was still a pity. Sword Tao. After all, he practiced the sword. There was a big difference between having and not having sword Tao. He had used the 3 tribulations sharpening secret technique with great difficulty to raise the heart sword Tao intent from the middle level to the top level. After that, he had continuously sharpened it and raised it to 100% perfection. It was really a pity that it had shattered and disappeared like this. Suddenly, Chern Zong's heart seemed to beat uncontrollably. An indescribable understanding suddenly grew from the deepest part of his heart. It was like a seed that sprouted, quickly breaking out of the ground and growing. His heart beat faster than usual and surpassed the limit. It was as if it was going to jump out of his chest. It was as if the violent heartbeat reverberated between heaven and earth. The 3 tribulations sharpening secret technique has forged the heart sword Tao intent to 100% perfection. What if there is a 4th tribulation? It was a sudden thought. It was a sudden thought, but it was so sudden and so tempting. If there is no fourth tribulation, I will create one. This fourth tribulation should be the shattering tribulation. Without shattering, there can be no construction. After shattering, there can be construction. Peak Tao intent, shattering before construction. It should be supreme. His consciousness became clearer and more condensed, as if he had the help of the gods. The heart sword Tao intent is closely related to my heart. This is sword Tao intent. If there is a sword in my heart, then there is a sword. My heart is like a sword. My intent is like a sword. As long as there is a sword in my heart and my sword heart is unbroken, the sword Tao will exist. It is unbreakable and indestructible. Qin Zong's eyes shone brightly as if they were condensed into an extreme sword light that could pierce through the sun, moon, and heaven and earth. Rumble! There seemed to be divine lightning that split the heavens and earth apart in the sky. The mighty momentum spread out in all directions, and the rumbling shook the heavens and the earth. The sound was deafening and seemed to contain some kind of supreme principle. Traces of faintly discernible Tao aura filled the air and drifted out. It seemed to come from the distant universe or the depths of the void. It was faintly discernible like the chanting of a god, and it interpreted the infinite profundities of the Tao of heaven and earth. It was like the sound of the ancient Tao resounding through the heavens and the earth, and it spread out in all directions. The sound was faintly discernible. It was sometimes loud and sometimes low, and it had a unique rhythm. It seemed to come from the outside world, but it also seemed to come from the depths of everyone's hearts. Then, a huge crack seemed to be silently torn open in the sky. It was 10,000 meters long, but it was not black. Instead, it was filled with a 9-colored luster. It rippled like the ripples of a lake, and there was an extreme profoundness and mystery to it. For a moment, everyone stopped fighting and looked up at the 9-colored, 10,000-meter-long lake in the sky. It was as if there were endless mysteries contained within. At the same time, everyone's hearts were filled with doubts. They did not know what it was. Then, spots of light as goose feathers, fell from the 9-colored lake and drifted down. They were 9-colored flowers. The 9-colored flowers seemed to be weightless, but they emitted an indescribable fragrance. The fragrance seemed to be very rich, so rich that it was almost intoxicating. However, when one sniffed it seriously, it was difficult to smell it. It seemed to become very light. Qin Zong looked up at the falling 9-colored heavenly flowers. His heart was calm, and there was only a surge of power that kept emerging from the depths of his heart. Then, the 9-colored heavenly flowers fell. They seemed to be pulled by an inexplicable force and drifted toward Qin Zong. They entered Qin Zong's head from the top of his head and went straight into his divine sea. Bloom. In Qin Zong's divine sea, the 9-colored heavenly flowers bloomed one after another, releasing dazzling 9-colored brilliance that illuminated all directions. As the 9-colored heavenly flowers continued to fall, the brilliance became denser and denser until it completely filled the divine sea. Unparalleled power surged within the deity ocean. Indescribable mysteries reverberated within the deity ocean. His soul, which had been damaged by 30%, recovered in an instant. It was completely healed and seemed to be even more resilient. The ancient heavenly voice of the Way continued to enter Qin Zong's divine sea. It was like an ancient god was chanting and praying. Qin Zong was greatly moved. The enlightenment in his heart also increased by more than 10 times in an instant. Endless mysteries appeared, and his heart grew stronger. An illusory sword shadow quietly condensed in the divine sea that was filled with 9-colored brilliance. Heart sword Tao will. No, it was not as simple as the heart sword Tao will from before. Although it had just been condensed and was not as powerful as the original heart sword Tao will, an indescribable power was buried deep within, dormant. It was like a true dragon temporarily hibernating in the abyss, ready to soar into the sky. As the sword's shadow condensed, Chen Zong felt that his heart seemed to become more resilient. There was a faint sharpness that unexpectedly grew. Condense. Chapter 1866. The Dominator of the Six Paths is so lazy. He actually used the name of a scroll as the title of a chapter. Ancient Path, Heavenly Melody, Nine-Colored Heavenly Lake, Nine-Colored Heavenly Flower. The strange phenomenon was earth-shattering. Everyone was stunned, regardless of whether they were from the ghost race or the human race. The human race was ecstatic, while the ghost race was furious. How could this be? Although they did not know what this strange phenomenon meant, it was definitely not a good thing for the ghost race. The human race who was supposed to be dead, was now wrapped in nine-colored brilliance. It was as if he was resonating with the nine-colored heavenly lake in the sky. Condense. The sword's shadow in the deity sea continued to condense and become more and more solid. When the nine-colored brilliance in the deity sea was completely absorbed, the sword's shadow had completely solidified. A long sword was in the center of the deity sea. The hilt was facing upwards and the tip was facing downwards. It slowly rotated, and its entire body seemed to be made of mysterious nine-colored divine light. Every time it rotated, it would flash with a different kind of light. When it rotated 9 times, it would flash with 9 different kinds of light. In the beginning, every rotation would flash with a very strong light. However, when it rotated 9 times, the light became gentler. When it rotated 9 times, it became gentler and more reserved. When it rotated 9 times, the light had become so faint that it almost disappeared. The sword also became transparent, and only a trace of silvery white snaked from the tip to the tip. It looked like a long sword made of transparent crystal, and there was a silvery white thread in the middle. This long sword was so exquisite that it was like the most exquisite piece of art in the world. However, one should not think that it was a piece of art. It was a sharp weapon, a killing weapon. Chen Zong could feel the astonishing power contained in this sword. The power was extremely terrifying, and it was completely condensed on the winding silvery white thread in the center. This sword is from the heart, so it's called. Heart Sword Intent. In an instant, it was as if the heavens and earth were responding, as if the world was responding. The ancient path heavenly voice also changed, becoming majestic, vast, and clear. Everyone could clearly hear 2 words that kept repeating and echoing. Supreme. Supreme. When this voice sounded, Chen Zong suddenly clenched his fists. He was secretly excited. Supreme. Supreme. It was like the singing and praising of a deity. Supreme, what does this mean? Everyone was puzzled. They did not understand the meaning of this singing because of the lack of knowledge and inheritance. However, Chen Zong was very clear. Supreme. His sword intent had finally broken through the limit, transforming from top tier to supreme. Supreme was the limit, it was the ultimate. Supreme. Chen Zong didn't know and couldn't be sure. Although he could feel that the power of the Supreme Heart Sword intent was very strong, it was very restrained. It was so restrained that even he couldn't accurately judge it. Moreover, that power also had an elusive feeling like a heart. He was. Chen Xiu knew Chen Zong's plan. He immediately avoided the powerful Ghost King and attacked Jace in the form of Raging Azura. Chen Xiu's battle strength had at least doubled in the form of Raging Azura. He tried his best to delay the battle and suffered a lot of injuries. Although he could not kill the Ghost King in a one-on-one battle, he could compete with it. Jace immediately swooped down. The small purgatory ghost gate followed behind him. He raised his giant axe and slashed down. Boom! It was like a black lightning bolt tearing through the sky. Its speed was astonishing and its power was terrifying to the extreme. It emitted an unparalleled destructive aura, as if it could destroy everything. This attack used 100% of Jace's power. Under this attack, the earth would be torn apart. Chernzong was 100 meters away from the ground. He looked up. The sky seemed to have disappeared. Between heaven and earth, there was only the giant axe that slashed down, creating a black crack. It emitted a terrifying aura as it slashed towards him. If it was before, he would have dodged this attack no matter what. The Ghost King's power was too strong. It was completely superior to his. He could not take it head-on. But now, he had to try. He reached out and grasped the void. The heart sword intent immediately appeared in his hand. The sword was 1 meter long and transparent. Only a strand of silver-white thread could be seen clearly. He raised the sword, and the sword light went against the flow. In an instant, a silver-white sword light shot out. Compared to the black crack created by the giant axe, it was like a python compared to a snake. However, the moment the two sides collided, the giant axe was blocked. Chernzong's sword soared into the air, completely blocking the descending giant axe. The difference between the sword and the giant axe was too great. But it could block it. It was shocking. Jace's face was full of shock. Chernzong, on the other hand, was surprised and happy. Then, he felt relieved. Supreme Sword Intent. This was the power that the Supreme Sword Intent should have. The Heart Sword Intent came from the heart. It was more direct than the Heart Sword Tao Intent. When the heart was strong, the sword would be strong. He flicked his wrist lightly. In an instant, the sword vibrated at an astonishing speed and suddenly bounced the giant axe away. The sword light flashed, and like an explosion of silver light, it shot directly toward Jace. This sword was extremely fast. Its power was extremely shocking. Jace did not have time to dodge at all. He could only force himself to use the giant axe. The giant axe was like a shield in front of him to block the sword. Unexpectedly, the sword light that was originally stabbing out suddenly trembled. The silver thread seemed to explode with shocking power and directly pierced the giant axe. Not only was the giant axe huge, but it was also very thick and extremely hard. When it collided with the heart sword Tao Intent earlier, it was not damaged at all. In terms of hardness, it was at the level of a semi-divine artifact. Chernzong only felt the heart sword Intent pierce the surface of the axe. It was extremely hard. He did not know what material it was made of. The golden sun above his head suddenly expanded, and the light became more and more intense. The golden sun was originally the size of a human head, but now it had expanded several times. It was even larger than a washbasin. Its power was astonishing. Then, the sword light and sword intent carried an astonishing power that could destroy anything. It drilled into the extremely hard surface of the axe with determination, as if it was determined to pierce through the axe. Determination. It was the determination and desire that came from Chernzong's heart. It was the sharpness of the sword. In an instant, a sword light pierced through the axe and pierced toward Jace. Jace was shocked. His giant axe had actually been pierced through? It was unbelievable. If not for the fact that he had fought countless battles and experienced countless dangers, he was afraid that the sword light would have pierced through his head. Although his physique was strong and his head was extremely hard, there was still a gap between them and the giant axe in his hand. Chernzong was a little surprised that his sword pierced through the axe. However, he felt that it was only natural. Heart Sword Intent. Supreme Sword Intent. It should have such power. He withdrew his sword and slashed. In an instant, the sword light condensed into a silk thread. Sword Refinement Thread. Chernzong realized that the sword refinement thread was much easier to perform with the heart sword intent than before. It was completely under his control. The threads condensed from the sword light were imbued with unparalleled power as they shot towards ghostly god Jethro. The sword did not hit the giant axe directly. Instead, it went around the giant axe and displayed the flexibility of a silk thread. Slash, slash, slash. In an instant, Jace swung his axe hundreds of times. The terrifying axe light was so powerful that it seemed to split the void. It was so powerful that it shattered everything around it. He used this method to block Chen Zong's sword. The situation seemed to have reversed. Previously, Chen Zong had been suppressed by Jia Luo and could only barely resist. In the end, he had erupted with all his strength to kill Jia Luo. In the end, although he had injured Jia Luo, he had suffered heavy injuries and almost died. Now, he had the upper hand. His combat power had more than doubled. However, Chen Zong felt that the heart sword intense potential was not limited to this. It was just that he had just evolved and was not familiar with it. The first style of the heart sword style, chain heartbeat. In an instant, the sword light pierced through the air. It was not hundreds of arcs of sword light. There was only one, but it was formed by hundreds of arcs. It looked like it was stabbing out in a straight line, but it also looked like it was stabbing out in an arc. It was hard to tell. Jace felt his heart tremble uncontrollably. A strong sense of fear rose from the depths of his heart and spread out. The sword light had already pierced through the air. Dodge. The strong sense of danger and the instinct that had been honed from countless life-and-death battles drove him to make the most accurate reaction in an instant. As he dodged, he swung his axe. The blade of the axe tore through the void and was extremely powerful. If Chen Zong was hit, he would be torn apart. Jace immediately knew that he had been hit by a sword. Although he tried his best to dodge that sword, he did not manage to completely avoid it. His counterattack with his axe had missed. His shoulder was pierced. A terrifying sword aura immediately spread out from the wound, wantonly strangling him. The small ghost purgatory gate behind him immediately emitted black smoke. It continuously flowed into the wound, dispelling the sword aura that was wreaking havoc on his shoulder and healing his injury. Chen Zong frowned slightly. How troublesome. In the previous battle with the Rakshasa King, the Rakshasa King had relied on this shocking ability to heal itself time and time again, which was very difficult to deal with. That time, Shao Chen had broken through and joined hands with his clone to use all their power and methods to break the small purgatory ghost gate behind the Rakshasa King, killing him. If he had not destroyed the small ghost purgatory gate, Rakshasa King could have continuously used the power of the small ghost purgatory gate to heal his injuries and expend energy. With my current strength, can I destroy that small ghost purgatory gate? Chen Zong thought to himself. He could not be sure about this. The small ghost purgatory gate was shockingly strong. Even if he had become much stronger, he was not confident. However, if he did not destroy the small ghost purgatory gate, he would not be able to kill the Ghost King even if he injured him time and time again. I need more power, Chen Zong thought to himself. His current strength was enough to fight the Ghost King head-on and injure him, but it was still not enough to kill him. Thus, he could only continue to improve himself and become stronger. Chapter 1867. Thanks to Chen Zixing for the tip. Today's first update will be released tomorrow. Get your monthly tickets ready. By the way, my public account is 6 Paths of Oblivion. There's a pretty lady waiting for you after work. High up in the sky, Chen Zong glanced over and immediately turned into a sword light that tore through the sky. He flew out at an astonishing speed toward the Ghost Clan army. The 7-colored barrier was still holding off the Ghost Clan army, but it had reached its limit. Fine cracks began to appear on it as if it would shatter at any time. The Heart Sword Dao Will had transformed into Supreme Heart Sword Dao Will, and its power had increased greatly. Under the control of the sword, Chen Zong's speed was even faster than before. He was like an aurora that tore through the sky and instantly left Ghost Clan Jethro behind. The distance of tens of thousands of meters was nothing to Chen Zong at this moment. He closed the gap in a short time. Chen Zong slashed out with his sword, and a sword light that was as thin as a thread tore through the sky. It was over 100 meters long and was as light as a strand of silk, but its speed was extremely fast. In just an instant, the sword light that was more than 100 meters long approached the Ghost Clan army. The Ghost's strong bodies were more fragile than thin paper under the sword light. They were easily torn apart. One slash. Just one slash of the sword light had killed hundreds of ghosts. Hundreds of origin essence diffused toward Chen Zong and entered Chen Zong's body. In an instant, these hundreds of origin essence were all refined and absorbed by Chen Zong to increase his body-refining cultivation. The reason why Chen Zong did not keep them to heal his wounds or recover his strength was because the several hundred strands of essence were not enough to heal his wounds or recover his strength. They were not effective at all. After all, his strength level was very high. As for his injuries, if they were ordinary injuries, they would not affect him at all. If he was heavily injured, like before, even 1,000 origin essence would not have much effect. Missions had their limit. The higher one's level was, the more obvious the limits of the mission would be. But now it was still possible to use them to increase his body-refining cultivation. Like a tiger in a flock of sheep, Chen Zong was invincible. Every time he swung his sword, the sword radiance would sweep across the sky. With such a strong combat strength, Chen Zong did not need to hide at all. Invincible! Kill, kill, kill! Origin essence constantly surged into Chen Zong's body and was refined and absorbed by Chen Zong. Chen Zong could feel his body constantly strengthening. The ghost race's origin essence energy was countless times better than many body-refining treasures. This was because using body-refining treasures would cause one to develop a resistance to the medicinal effects. If one used too much of it, there would be no effect. However, this was not the case for the ghost race's origin essence chi. It could be continuously refined and absorbed without any consumption. It could be completely converted. The only difference was that the original essence of the weaker Ghost Clan members had a weaker effect on the stronger Ghost Clan members. When there was a large number of them, there would still be a significant effect. Chen Zong estimated that his current body-refining cultivation should have reached the 7-star level, but he wasn't sure what level he was at. As for reaching the 8-star level, it was not that easy. So, he continued to kill. When Chen Zong killed several thousand ghosts, he greatly reduced the pressure on the humans and also lessened the pressure on the 7-colored barrier, so it didn't shatter. However, the 7-colored barrier had almost reached its limit. Gui Xing Jie Luo chased after him and swung his giant axe horizontally. His target was not Chen Zong, but the 7-colored barrier. Slash. The extremely powerful might of this axe tore through the void, causing a crack that constantly fluctuated. It instantly arrived, causing the expressions of all the human cultivators to change drastically, and their bodies could not help but tremble. It was too powerful. If they were hit by this attack, they would instantly be turned into ashes. Chen Zong's figure flashed, and he swung his sword across the sky. The sword radiance easily shattered the shocking axe radiant. Then, with a flick of his sword chi swept across the sky and killed dozens of ghosts. Slash. 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 Gui Xing Jie Luo's giant axe slashed violently. Hundreds of axe radiances broke through the sky and slashed out in a fan shape. Some of them went for Chen Zong, while the others went for the 7-colored barrier. Chen Zong could not completely break this attack. The 7-colored barrier shone brightly, and there were continuous cracking sounds. The cracks kept expanding, and it had reached its limit. When the 7-colored barrier completely blocked Gui Xing Jie Luo's axe radiance, it had truly reached its limit. Shatter. In an instant, the 7-colored barrier was completely shattered, and it turned into countless 7-colored lights that sputtered in all directions. It was extremely dazzling and mesmerizing. However, 1,500 human cultivators appeared in front of the Ghost Clan's army without any defense. Kill! Gui Sing Jieluo roared. His killing intent filled the sky like a flood. He did not chase after Chen Zong. Instead, he held his giant axe and killed the 1,500 human cultivators directly. Facing a ghost king who had condensed 2 supreme flowers, the 1,500 cultivators could not resist at all. In less than 10 breaths, they would all be killed. Would Chen Zong let the ghost king kill them all? No. If these cultivators died, the top power of the mystery realm would be gone. Therefore, Chen Zong had to stop the Ghost King. A sword flashed across the sky. The seemingly tiny sword radiance blocked the Ghost King's giant axe, but the other ghosts rushed toward the human cultivators. Kill! UNG Alliance Master roared. His aura exploded, and 9 battle stars shone above his head. First, the Taishian demon-slaying crossbows killed more than 20,000 ghosts. Then, the crossbows continuously shot at some of the ghosts. While the 7-colored barrier blocked the ghosts, they took the opportunity to kill thousands of ghosts. In addition to Chen Zong and Chen Xiu's hunting earlier, the total number of ghosts killed was more than 30,000. But for the nearly 100,000 ghost army, the death of 30,000 ghosts was not a big deal. At least, there were still more than 60,000 ghosts left, which was far more powerful than the Human Alliance Master. However, now that even the 7-colored barrier was broken, there was no way to resist. They could only fight. Looking at Jiandi Chen Zong, who had almost died, but had regained his vitality in the desperate situation and become even stronger. Such amazing willpower was a great inspiration and worth learning from. This battle was nothing more than death. Before that, they had to kill more ghosts. Kill. The 1,500 cultivators kept absorbing the original essence of the ghost. Their combat strength had increased a lot. They were more powerful than before, and their fighting spirit was high. They no longer cared about life and death. Those who were not afraid of death were the most terrifying. They fought to survive in the face of death and exerted all their strength. They even went beyond their limit. Although they knew that they would not be able to escape death in this battle, they did not charge forward mindlessly. Instead, they formed a battle formation and charged out. In this way, they could unleash the power of more than 1,500 people and kill even more Ghost Clan members. Even if they died, they had to die heroically and honorably. But even if they were in a battle formation, it was not very effective against the torrent of attacks from the Ghost Army. In just a short time, they were defeated. The result was that more than 300 cultivators with weaker combat strength were killed by the Ghost. But they did not die in vain. At least, they managed to kill one ghost. One life for another. Tragic. In just one encounter, more than 300 out of the 1,500 cultivators had died. This scene made Chen Zong's heart skip a beat, but he became calmer. In a flash, Chen Zong dodged Ghost Forest Jia Luo and charged toward the Ghost Army to reinforce the human cultivators. Jia Luo immediately chased after him. His giant axe slashed down, shattering the vacuum. In this way, the pressure on Chen Zong increased greatly. On one hand, he had to defend against Jia Luo. At most, he could injure him, but he could not kill him. Moreover, Jia Luo's injuries would heal quickly. On the other hand, he had to help the human cultivators. He could not let them be killed by the Ghost Army. Then, let me try this move, Chen Zong said to himself. As he continued to fight with the heart sword intent, he became more accustomed to it. He could control it better and use it more freely, unlocking more potential. This move was a sudden inspiration. As for what it was, he could not be sure. Heart Domain. In an instant, the Heart Domain was released and covered a radius of 5,000 meters. Everything within that radius became extremely clear. But in the next moment, the Heart Domain began to shrink at an astonishing speed. In an instant it had completely shrunk into the heart sword intent in Chen Zong's hand. The two merged perfectly into one. It worked. Chen Zong's eyes lit up. Of course, comprehending and mastering the heart domain came from the heart. Now that the heart sword Dao intent had evolved into the heart sword intent, it also came from the heart. The heart domain and the heart sword intent could be said to have the same origin. A miraculous reaction spread within the heart sword intent. In the next moment, streaks of invisible sword chi shot out from the heart sword intent. With the heart sword intent as the center, the sword chi covered a radius of 1,000 meters. Chen Zong instantly felt that everything within a radius of 1,000 meters was under his control. With a single thought, the long sword formed from his heart sword intent trembled. In an instant, sword chi appeared out of nowhere, killing a ghost that was several hundred meters away. Kill! With a low shout, countless streaks of sword chi condensed within 1,000 meters. Streaks and streaks of sword chi flickered with silver light. It was dazzling and incomparably cold. There seemed to be no end to the sword chi within 1,000 meters. In an instant, a portion of the sword chi shot toward the ghost army like thousands of swords streaking across the sky. Another portion shot toward Gui Sing Jialuo. Gui Sing Jialuo was extremely powerful. He swung his giant axe horizontally and shattered the countless streaks of sword chi. Although the sword chi was very powerful, it was too scattered. It was not enough to deal with a ghost king. However, it was shockingly powerful against ghosts below the ghost king level. In just an instant, thousands of ghosts were killed by the sword chi. This move was called the heart sword domain. Essence chi. Thousands of origin essence chi gathered and surged into Chen Zong's body. Chen Zong quickly refined and absorbed them. Chen Zong could feel his body growing stronger and stronger. A shocking power surged within his body. As the Taichu sword origin poured into the heart sword intent, the second wave of sword chi condensed and shot toward the ghost army. As for Chen Zong, he stabbed with his sword. Heart sword art chain heartbeat. This sword pierced through Gui Sing Jialuo's body again and injured him. Meanwhile, the sword chi formed by the heart sword domain shot towards the ghost race, killing close to 10,000 of them. This move was extremely terrifying. It was not enough to deal with a ghost king, but it was a killing machine against ghosts below the ghost king level. The disadvantage was also very obvious. It consumed a lot of sword origin. Chapter 1868. At the edge of the ultimate profundity realm, in front of the Great Rift Valley, countless tyrannical attacks bombarded in all directions. The void was dyed black, and faintly, cracks began to appear. Shocking collisions sounded like mountain torrents erupting and mountains collapsing. In the darkness, there was a dazzling golden light that burned the sky. Everywhere it passed, the darkness was burned into nothingness. Fight, fight, fight. The 9 heavens 10 earths battle technique was fully activated. This was a pure cultivation technique that lived for battle and died for battle. Once it was activated, one's heart was filled with astonishing battle intent. The stronger the battle intent, the stronger the cultivation technique. This was an inheritance that he had almost died to obtain. Coupled with the great providence of this world, the heavenly god Gong was instantly reborn. He was countless times more powerful than before. He had come alone to stop an army of ghosts. In addition to the army of ghosts, there were 40,000 ghost beasts, including a ghost king and a ghost beast king. Boom, boom, boom. The heavenly god Gong's fists were condensed with battle intent, reaching an astonishing 5 inches long. He continuously punched out. Every punch was like a star that blasted through the void. Under the continuous barrage, it was like a violent and dazzling meteor shower. Regardless of whether it was a ghost soldier or a ghost general, whether it was a lower, middle, or upper-level ghost general, or a ghost beast with 9 golden battle stars, none of them could withstand a single punch from the heavenly god gong. As the battle continued, one could see the basin-sized flower of air above the heavenly god palace's head slowly solidifying. This meant that the heavenly god palace's power was increasing bit by bit, and he was becoming more and more powerful. It had been some time since the heavenly god gong had appeared, and he had killed thousands of ghost tribe cultivators. Origin essence was constantly being absorbed and refined to replenish his own energy consumption, and at the same time, it was also gradually increasing his own strength. The 9 heavens 10 earths battle technique was an extreme inheritance. The more he fought, the stronger his battle intent. The stronger his battle intent, the stronger his battle strength. Of course, this was only the case during the battle. It was an almost limitless increase. Once the battle ended, his battle intent would fade, and his strength would return to its original level. It could be said that the longer the battle went on, the more intense the battle became, and the more astonishingly powerful the heavenly god gong became. The Ghost Beast clan's Ghost Beast King, Xieming, discovered that at the beginning, this human was being suppressed by him and the Ghost Beast King, and was in imminent danger. However, for some unknown reason, this human was holding on with incomparable tenacity. Furthermore, the more he fought, the stronger he became. By now, this human was already able to take on 2 people by himself and the Ghost Beast King. In fact, he could even spare some energy to kill ghost generals and ghost soldiers. Anger. The demonic beast demon Ming was enraged. Its power erupted as it summoned a miniature demonic purgatory gate to replenish its energy. It did not dodge at all, even if it was injured. It wanted to use its powerful physique and the power of the miniature demonic purgatory gate to exhaust its opponent to death. Burn. The heavenly god Gong felt as if he was burning. His essence, energy, spirit, and life force were burning and boiling. His entire body was boiling, and his fighting spirit was soaring to the heavens like a volcano erupting. The origin essence of the ghost race constantly flowed into his body, replenishing what he had consumed. The 9 heavens 10 earths battle technique was indeed a very powerful battle technique. It was also very extreme. The more intense the battle, the more shocking the increase in battle strength. However, it was not without a price. The price he had to pay was to burn himself. Once he burned himself to the limit, the consequence would be death. In the past, those who cultivated the 9 heavens 10 earths battle technique were all people with astonishing battle strength. They had all made a name for themselves, but most of them ended up dying in battle. They were not killed, but burned themselves in battle. In the end, they could not bear it and died. The heavenly god Gong had not reached that step yet, but he was on the path. However, with the replenishment of the ghost race's origin essence, he would not overdraw his body. Death. The ghost race continued to die. The number of deaths had already exceeded 10,000. These 10,000 ghost race had all become origin essence to replenish the heavenly god Gong's consumption, indirectly increasing his battle strength again. Boom. With a punch, the sharpness of his fighting spirit broke through 5 inches and reached 6 inches. It struck the Ghost Beast King's head. The extremely powerful force not only knocked the Ghost Beast King back several hundred meters, but it also cracked its head. Dark red and smelly blood flowed out. However, the Ghost Beast King's body was extremely strong. A mere injury was nothing to it. It only made it even more furious. With a mad roar, it suddenly pounced. In the distance, the 300 cultivators from the ancient suppression world were all shocked. They were all dumbfounded. The battle in front of them was completely beyond their imagination. It was not that they did not want to fight, but that they had no way to fight. That power was too powerful. Even from afar, they could feel the shocking impact of the pressure. It was shocking like a landslide or a tsunami. They felt extremely oppressed and found it difficult to breathe. If they got close, they would be suppressed and unable to use much of their battle strength. The result would be death. Looking at the ghost race army, it was like a flood that could destroy the world. A mere 300 cultivators were so weak in front of it. They would be devoured in one blow and die completely. They would not even be able to cause a splash. The ancient suppression holy sun was trembling all over. Fear. Horror. Is that the heavenly god of the Taishan holy palace? What happened to this world? Why did the heavenly god Gong become so powerful? The ancient suppression holy sun admitted that in the past, the heavenly god Gong was indeed more outstanding than him. However, there was a limit. It was not like now where he could not see the top. This difference was like the difference between a small earthworm and a true dragon. It was unknown how many times the difference was. For a moment, the ancient suppression holy sun felt as if something in his heart was shattering. That was belief. That was persistence. It was the persistence and belief that he wanted to compete with the heavenly god Gong. Now, in front of his eyes, it was completely shattered. It was like a dream. Now, he had woken up from the dream. Unknowingly, the ancient suppression holy sun's face was suddenly filled with tears. He did not know whether to cry or laugh, or whether to be mad or sad. However, the heavenly god Gong would not pay attention to the ancient suppression holy sun. To him, this was already an existence on a different level. His opponent was only that Jiandi Chunzong. Even the ghost race in front of him was just a stumbling block. Kill them all. In an instant, the power of the fist of battle intent skyrocketed again. 7 inches. Every inch the power of the fist of battle intent increased greatly. Repelled. The Ghost Beast King and Ghost King were repelled again, and many more ghosts were killed. Under the power of the fist of battle intent, the ghost race's tyrannical bodies were like nothing. They were even more fragile than thin paper, and were torn into pieces in an instant. The Ghost Beast King did not have the slightest intention of charging out of the Taishan realm and into other realms. This was because he was very angry. He was so angry that he forgot his original goal. He only wanted to kill this human in front of him. If he did not kill this human, how could he occupy this world? On the outer city of Taiji City, the battle became more and more intense. Thousands of ghost race origin essence surged like a tide into Chunzong's body. Most of them were converted and used to recover the Taichu sword essence. Heart sword domain. Tens of thousands of sword chi appeared once again and shot out once more. Each sword chi revealed an extremely shocking sharpness. It was as if they tore through space. They were extremely fast and agile. They all avoided the human cultivators and focused on the ghosts. In just an instant, thousands of ghosts were killed. Such an ultimate move left everyone dumbstruck and extremely shocked. It could be said to be a terrifying move to kill a group of people. Thousands of ghost race origin essence entered his body again to replenish the Taichu sword essence. Under the heart sword domain, thousands of sword chi were activated again. Massacre. It was a completely one-sided massacre. Ghost Beast King Jieluo was furious to the extreme. He roared and charged, completely ignoring his injuries. He wanted to trade injury for injury, life for life. Because he had a small purgatory ghost gate, even if he was injured, as long as he did not die on the spot, he could recover in a short time. However, Chunzong could not. If he was hit by the giant axe, he would immediately be severely injured. Chunzong's lips curled into a smile. What I want is your anger. Heart sword style. Everlasting heart illusion. In an instant a sword slashed out. The sword light was misty and spread out in all directions like smoke, enveloping Ghost Beast King Jieluo. Ghost Beast King Jieluo waved his giant axe. The axe light surrounded him, blocking the sword chi smoke. However, it could not block the illusions in his heart. Especially when he was angry and did not have his usual calmness, it was easier for illusions to appear. Slash. Slash. As Chern Zong smiled, a faintly discernible sword chi nimbly passed through the gaps between the giant axe light. It followed the most mysterious trajectory and pierced through Ghost Beast King Jia Luo's chest armor. Pierce. The sword chi pierced through Ghost Beast King Jia Luo's armor and chest, piercing his heart and exploding. It was like thousands of needles piercing through Ghost Beast King Jia Luo's heart. Ghost Beast King Jia Luo's body suddenly trembled. He could not help but spit out blood. That was the essence of his heart. His aura instantly dropped, and he felt that his powerful strength was fading away. Heart sword style. Everlasting heart destruction. Sword light burst out, illuminating heaven and earth. It was as if the sun had collapsed. The shocking aura of destruction also surged like a torrent, wreaking havoc. The sword light reached its pinnacle. It was filled with killing intent that could destroy everything. This sword was unstoppable. With his heart damaged, Ghost Beast King Jia Luo felt a sense of darkness enveloping him. It was filled with deathly stillness. It was as if he was about to fall into the abyss of death. The sword light cut through Ghost Beast King Jia Luo's body like a hot knife through butter. With one slash, Ghost Beast King Jia Luo's body was cut in half. Boom! His aura instantly soared and condensed. His black hair danced wildly, piercing through the sky like sharp swords. Chern Zong's eyes also shone brightly. The aura of destruction spread in all directions. His body lowered slightly, and his sword slanted forward. Vacuum, lifeless slash. The most powerful attack instantly slashed out. His Taichu sword essence also surged, turning into a peerless sword light that tore through heaven and earth, shattering everything. Chern Zong had been planning since he attacked the Ghost Beast King Jia Luo. He wanted to kill the Ghost Beast King Jia Luo and use a large amount of damage to infuriate him and make him lose his mind. Once the Ghost Beast King Jia Luo lost his mind, the Heart Sword style's ability to target the mind would be strengthened to the extreme. The Everlasting Heart Illusion and Everlasting Heart Destruction hit each other consecutively. The last attack was the lifeless slash of Void. It was an attack that used all his strength. Chapter 1869. Young book friend, did you drop this bundle of golden monthly tickets or this bundle of silver monthly tickets? Oh, you don't have monthly tickets. Since you're so honest, I won't give you this bundle of monthly tickets or this bundle of monthly tickets. Hurry up and top up your monthly tickets. Since ancient times, the competition for monthly votes had never stopped. Every time, it was a war without gunpowder, a slaughter without blood. Not asking for monthly tickets was like not getting married when in love, not paying for meals, and not paying for the tickets on the train. Usually, Dominator of Six Paths would not ask for monthly tickets because there was no outbreak. But now that there was an outbreak, he could ask for monthly tickets confidently. The ranking of monthly tickets, to a certain extent, also represented the quality of the book. Especially the top 10, it was a place that military strategists would fight for. Only by entering the top 10 in the monthly votes will you be able to show your face on the front page, allowing more people to see you, increasing your popularity, and increasing your subscriptions. The 6 paths of samsara longs for the day when our Tong Shen can enter the top 10 in the monthly votes and appear on the front page. At that time, the Tong Shen you like will be seen and liked by more people. I believe this is what you all hope for. Next, Dominator of Six Paths talked about the outbreak that everyone was most concerned about. Starting from today, the outbreak was estimated to last for 3 days, which was today, tomorrow, and the day after. Dominator of Six Paths also called it the basic outbreak. If it was going to be a big outbreak, it would depend on the monthly ticket ranking. Dominator of Six Paths was currently ranked 56th in the monthly ticket ranking. If it entered the top 50, including the 50th place, Dominator of Six Paths would add 2 more chapters to the basic outbreak. Today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow would count. Based on the top 50, top 40, top 30, top 20, and top 10 rankings, the dominator of the 6 paths would add more chapters to the monthly ticket ranking. The number of chapters added was 2, 2, 2, 2, and 10, which corresponded to the monthly ticket ranking. For example, today was the 19th. If it entered the top 50, then the number of chapters would increase from 5 to 7, and so on. If it entered the top 40, then it would increase to 9. If it entered the top 30, then it would increase to 11. If it entered the top 20, then it would increase to 13. If it entered the top 10, then it would be awesome. 10 more chapters would increase to 23. If it entered the top 3, dominator of 6 paths would add 20 more chapters. If it did not reach the basic ranking, then it could be extended to the second and third day. For example, if it entered the top 50 on the third day, then it would add 2 chapters on the third day. The first and second day would be the basic outbreak of 5 chapters each. Are you happy, excited, screaming, or impatient? Take out your monthly tickets and throw them at Dominator of 6 paths. Chapter 1870. Little Rice Dumpling is showing his prowess. Why aren't you waving the flag and cheering for him? Now that we have entered the top 50 in the monthly votes ranking, the Samsara will add 2 more updates on top of the basic 5 updates today, making it 7. If you can enter the top 40, 2 more updates will be added. Good luck, I have high hopes for you guys. Vacuum. Lifeless slash. With a slash of the sword, Gue Senji's severed body was instantly enveloped by an extremely powerful and dazzling sword light, shattering the void. Vacuum. It meant turning space into a vacuum and completely shattering it. Lifeless, on the other hand, meant that there was only death and no life. This strike had caught Jia Luo off guard, and it was extremely powerful. Chen Zong had used up all his strength to completely shatter Jia Luo's body, and even the space around him had been shattered. The small purgatory ghost gate summoned by the Rakshasa King's purgatory ghost divine body was not complete, so it could be easily destroyed. The small purgatory ghost gate summoned by a ghost king was truly complete. It was shockingly strong, and even the ghost kings of the ghost clan's 36 divisions could not destroy it. Chen Zong couldn't take the risk. After all, his most powerful attack used up most of his strength. If he couldn't destroy the miniature ghost gate, he would be in danger for a short time. That was the best choice. First, he would enrage the Ghost King. Then, he would use the opportunity to injure and kill the Ghost King. This would be easier than destroying the miniature ghost gate directly. The moment Jia Luo's body was torn apart, he let out a shrill howl of agony. It was like the howl of despair of a vicious beast. It was extremely vicious, and it resounded through the world. It made everyone tremble, as if fear had surged up from the depths of their hearts. The howl after the brutal howl seemed to be able to awaken the deepest fear in people's hearts and make them fall into despair. Chen Zong was the first to bear the brunt of this attack. However, he remained unmoved. This kind of despairing and ferocious roar attack was completely useless against Chen Zong, who had condensed the Supreme Heart Sword intent. In the next moment, a thick strand of essence rapidly extended from the shattered space. It danced in the air like a demonic dragon and burrowed into Chen Zong's body. When the essence entered his body, it was like a demonic dragon returning to the sea. His presence was vigorous and majestic, causing ripples to spread out. It caused Chen Zong's body to tremble uncontrollably, and there seemed to be waves of powerful rumbles. When the devil dragon-like ghost clan's origin essence entered his body, Chen Zong immediately felt his body swell, as if he had eaten too much. At the same time, the void shattered by the lifeless vacuum quickly recovered. Jia Luo's body turned into dust and disappeared without a trace. But before Chen Zong could react, a black shadow shot out like an arrow and entered the rapidly closing small ghost purgatory gate. That was the soul. It was the soul of the Ghost King, who was actually still alive. It seemed that he had used this opportunity to escape back into the purgatory ghost realm. But it did not matter. His body was completely shattered, and even if his soul escaped, it would not be able to cause any trouble in the short term. Moreover, he had become stronger. Refine. Absorb. The Ghost King's origin essence, which was as vigorous and precise as a demonic dragon, was quickly refined by Chen Zong. It was completely converted into body-refining energy without any loss, and it continued to increase his body-refining cultivation. The tendons, bones, and muscles all over Chen Zong's body twitched incessantly, constantly bursting forth with extremely shocking power, vibrating endlessly. Even without using the Taichu sword origin, just the aura from his body-refining cultivation alone was enough to create ripples in the surrounding space. This was the aura formed when one's body reached a certain level of strength. Chen Zong was certain that his body-refining cultivation had broken through to the 8-star level, or at least the 8-star elite level. During this period, the remaining ghosts were all stunned. The impact of Jia Luo's death on them was unimaginable. Even in the purgatory ghost realm, it was very difficult for a ghost king to die. But now, he was killed by a human. In their eyes, humans were just food, delicious food. The delicious food not only killed many of the ghost race, but even the Ghost King was killed. Jia Luo was the most powerful ghost king in the Ghost Forest tribe. How could he be killed? All of a sudden, the ghost race army was stunned, and so was the human side. They had found a ray of light in a hopeless situation. That was the hope of survival, and it impacted everyone's minds. Even an expert like the UNG Alliance master could not help but fall into a daze. Just as the Ghost Clan and the Human Clan were in a daze, Chen Zong had completely refined and absorbed the Ghost King's origin essence. His body burst forth with an extremely shocking aura that rushed out in all directions like a raging storm, destroying everything as it rumbled between heaven and earth. At the same time, Jia Luo was also struck by Chen Xiu in his raging Azura form. Even though he reacted in time, his left arm and left shoulder were severed by Chen Xiu's sword, and he flew high into the air. The power of a small purgatory ghost gate immediately spread out and entered Jia Luo's body to heal his injuries. However, it was not easy to recover from a severed limb. It would take some time. Retreat. He had to retreat. Even a powerful ghost king like Jia Luo was killed, and only a wisp of his remnant soul escaped back to the purgatory ghost realm. When this human attacked, he would not be able to escape death. Before that, he had to escape. Aggrieved. Jia Luo felt extremely aggrieved. He recalled how he attacked with high fighting spirit, but was defeated by Chen Zong and Heavenly God Gong. After that, Chen Zong entered the ghost city to fight, and the void cracks that burst out were extremely shocking. They almost swallowed him, and he had to pay the price of losing an arm to retreat. Now, another arm was severed and he had to escape. It seemed that ever since he entered this world, he had been very aggrieved. As a ghost king, he did not display the advantages that a ghost king should have, or rather, the treatment that a ghost king should have. Most of the humans in this world were very weak, but there would be one or two monsters who were even stronger and more shocking than the purgatory ghost race. Horrified. Jia Luo felt horrified at this moment. He wanted to curse, but he did not know what to say. After all, the purgatory ghost race never solved problems by talking, but by fighting and killing. Therefore, no matter how angry he was, Jia Luo could not curse. He only felt terrified and uneasy. Since invading this world, they had suffered more and more losses. Now, even Jia Luo of the Ghost Forest tribe was killed, and his remnant soul escaped. It would take a long time for him to recover. Fast. Jia Luo's speed was extremely fast. However, Chen Xiu would not let him go so easily. He chased after him. Heavenly Fiend Sword Art, Fiend Shadow. His sword pierced through the air at an astonishing speed, tearing through everything. It went straight for Jieluo. He could not block it at all and was hit directly. His body was cut open, and he was injured again. Damn it! Jieluo panicked. If this continued, he might die. He could not die. If he died, he would be like Jieluo. His remnant soul would escape back to the Purgatory Ghost Realm. At that time, the Ghost Forest tribe would only exist in name. Then, he could only take the risk. Without hesitation, Jieluo turned into a ray of black light and entered the small Purgatory Ghost Gate. If he used his body to enter the gate, he would die if he was not careful. However, there was also a possibility of survival. It was better than being killed, and only his remnant soul escaped. The Ghost Race army was in chaos. First, Jieluo was killed, then Jieluo escaped with injuries. The impact was unimaginable. When two armies were fighting, the commander was especially important. Once the commander was killed or escaped, the impact on the army's morale would be fatal. At this moment, Chunzong had completely absorbed Jieluo's origin energy and refined it into his own. 9-star. His body tempering cultivation had reached the 9-star level and was close to the elite level. Then, if he killed and absorbed all the remaining ghosts, would he be able to reach the pinnacle of the 9-star level? Chunzong was not sure, but he could give it a try. Kill. Heart Sword Realm. This was no doubt the best move for killing. 10,000 rays of sword chi pierced through the air and killed more than 10,000 ghosts. Unfortunately, there was not much Taichu sword origin left in his body. If he used the origin energy to replenish it, he would not be able to improve his body tempering cultivation. However, other than the Heart Sword Realm, he had other moves. Kill. Kill. The Heart Sword intent swept through the air, unleashing the strongest might with the smallest amount of strength. In just an instant, it killed many of the ghost rays. Kill. The remaining human cultivators also unleashed their killing move. At first, more than 20,000 ghosts were killed by the Taishian demon-killing crossbows. Then, they were blocked by the rainbow barrier. More than 30,000 ghosts died. Chunzong killed more than 30,000 ghosts. Now, there were less than 30,000 ghosts left. Although there were still many of them, there was a huge difference compared to before. Most importantly, their morale was gone. Every Ghost Clan member became panicked and terrified. They could not even unleash half of their combat strength, which was an obvious drop. Chen Xiu chased after them. Although he had removed his raging Azura form, he was still so powerful that these ghosts could not resist him. Kill. Kill. He continued to kill and obtain the essence chi of the Ghost Clan. He continued to refine and absorb the essence chi of the Ghost Clan to improve his body refinement realm. Compared to the Ghost King's origin energy, the difference between the Ghost Clan's origin energy and the Ghost Clan's origin energy was too great. However, with a large amount of ghost origin energy, his body tempering cultivation improved again and reached the elite level of the 9-star level. Run. The rest of the ghosts began to run. Although they were a fighting race, it did not mean that they were willing to die like this, especially when they had lost their will to fight. However, Chunzong and Chunxiu worked together and were extremely fast. They did not let any of the ghosts escape. Kill. 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 Even the upper-rank ghost general moved and wanted to escape at full speed. A ray of sword light extended in the void like a thread and pierced through it. That was Chunzong's sword. Almost 100,000 ghosts. 2 Ghost Kings led an army of almost 100,000 ghosts. However, in the end, 1 Ghost King died and the other Ghost King escaped. Together with the army of 100,000 ghosts, it was the end. When the last ghost was killed, the wind and clouds surged in the sky. Countless golden lights spread out and turned into golden stars that sprinkled down. Waves of fragrance spread between heaven and earth. Sniffing it made everyone feel comfortable. It was as if their tiredness was washed away. It was very comfortable. Chapter 1871. Second update. Please follow the public account. 6 Paths of Oblivion. Interact with the 6 paths. Jia Luo of the Ghost Forest was dead, Jesse of the Ghost Forest escaped, and nearly 100,000 Ghost Tribe soldiers were slaughtered. There was no doubt that the Ghost Tribe's will in them was devoured by the will of the world to recover and strengthen itself. The golden light was a kind of reward from the world of oblivion. Everyone's exhaustion was gone, and their injuries were healed under the golden light. Chen Zong and Chen Xiu absorbed the most golden light, and the light of providence turned into mountains and rivers, reaching the level of heavenly God Gong. For a moment, Chen Zong and Chen Xiu felt that their minds were clearer than ever, and their thoughts were clearer than ever. All kinds of mysteries of the world of oblivion appeared. The others did not get as much golden light as Chen Zong and Chen Xiu, but the benefits were obvious. The 3 alliances won the battle, but they paid a heavy price. Only about 700 of the 1,500 cultivators survived, and half of them died. If it were not for Chen Zong's supreme heart sword intent, all 1,500 humans would have been killed, and all the people in the inner city would have been killed. Now, it was the other way around. Some of the humans survived, and the inner city was intact, but the Ghost Tribe was slaughtered. Although almost 800 cultivators had died, which was a heavy loss, it was already a very good outcome. Moreover, the 700 people who survived each killed more than one Ghost Tribe member and obtained their origin essence, which increased their cultivation and combat power. They became more powerful, and they were also rewarded by the will of the world of oblivion, which made them more sensitive to the mysteries of the world of oblivion. They believed that in the future, they could all break through their limits and become more powerful. It was like a big wave washing away the sand. They were the sand, and the Ghost Tribe was the big wave. Although it was cruel, it was the truth. The battle here was over. Chen Xiu felt his power surging, and then it surged like a huge wave, bursting out with an extremely powerful aura. A gray light suddenly lit up, and in the next breath, it turned into a majestic gray light that shot into the sky, as if it was going to break the sky. In the sky, endless rotating halos appeared around the gray light. The sound of the explosion shook the heavens and the earth, reverberating in all directions. Boundless pressure suddenly surged out from Chen Xiu's body in all directions. The astonishing pressure swept out and suppressed everything within a radius of 10,000 meters. The void within 10,000 meters seemed to have been compressed into a steel plate. An extremely ferocious and domineering aura permeated the air, causing people to feel suffocated just by coming into contact with it. Horrifying. Everyone was horrified as they stared at Chen Xiu. Chen Xiu was already wrapped in the gray light. Endless gray light surged like waves. The change was actually very short, and it stopped after a short 10 breaths of time. All of the gray light and gray flames were restrained. Chen Xiu's aura was also restrained, and there were no visible changes. Only Chen Xiu and Chen Zong knew that Chen Xiu had become stronger. The 5th stage of the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique. After this battle, Chen Xiu finally gained some benefit. The Divine Fiend Azura battle technique finally had a breakthrough. It was just that very sadly, the Divine Fiend origin bead was also virtually sucked dry. Only the last bit was left. It was just the size of a soybean. In other words, if he wanted to break through to the 6th level, he could only rely on his own cultivation. Or he could find an environment full of murderous aura to absorb. However, the 5th level of the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique had increased his battle strength by a lot. It was a complete qualitative change. Chen Xiu couldn't help but smile. Activate. In an instant, wisps of black aura suddenly appeared from the void and entered Chen Xiu's body. It was the murderous aura left behind by the Death Ghost tribe. This murderous aura was very majestic. After all, it was left behind by nearly 100,000 Ghost tribe members. But unfortunately, it only increased Chen Xiu's Divine Fiend Azura battle technique's 5th level by a little. Compared to the Divine Fiend Origin bead, the difference was really too great. However, it was better than nothing. Immediately, Chen Zong and Chen Xiu raised their heads and looked in the same direction. They could feel that there was an intense battle in that direction. It was just that that battle didn't belong to him and his clone. That battle belonged to the heavenly god Gong. That's right, that aura was extremely shocking. It was the heavenly god Gong's aura. Very strong. Very strong. As expected of the heavenly god Gong, he truly was a formidable opponent in this world. Then, he wouldn't interfere in the battle there, unless the heavenly god Gong was no match for him. However, according to the aura he sensed now, the heavenly god Gong's aura didn't weaken at all. He should be able to put up a fight. As for himself, he had more important things to do. That was the Ghost Mother Tree. The Ghost Mother Tree had to be destroyed. This matter was very important. I'll leave the rest to you guys, Chen Zong said to the more than 700 cultivators who were still alive. Then, he and Chen Xiu transformed into a stream of light and flew forward rapidly. Then they disappeared. On Bewildering Light Island, 2 figures appeared at the same time. Chen Zong only circulated his body refinement power. Immediately, 9 battle stars appeared above his head. The first 8 stars were golden and dazzling, but the 9th star wasn't. Half of it was bronze and half of it was silver. Unfortunately, if he could slay the other Phantom Emperor and obtain his primary source of qi, his body-tempering cultivation would definitely reach the peak. However, he was able to win this battle because of the essence. Without the essence, he wouldn't be able to kill all of the 100,000 ghosts even if they didn't resist and just stood there for him to kill. After all, power wasn't endless. He would probably die from exhaustion. Fortunately, the awakening of this world's consciousness changed the rules. That was why he was able to achieve such a victory. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had enough power. Otherwise, he would be killed before he could obtain the essence of the ghost. Just like those cultivators who died. He retracted his body refinement power. The 9 battle stars also disappeared. Chen Xiu also circulated the 5th stage of the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique. Instantly, 9 golden battle stars appeared and merged into one. Then, a flower bloomed. It was the illusory image of a flower the size of a washbasin. It was brown in color and seemed to sway in the wind. Flower of Qi. Flower of Extreme Realm. The Divine Fiend Azura battle technique was the peak that Chen Xiu could cultivate in this world. After all, this was an extremely powerful inheritance. The 5th stage was extremely shocking in this world. Forming the Flower of Extreme Realm in such a short time was nothing. The illusory flower of Qi slowly solidified. Finally, it was between illusion and reality. An extremely powerful aura turned into a storm that swept out. It was extremely fierce and domineering. It was like a pressure from a powerful race in the universe that suppressed everything. Chen Zong couldn't help but be shocked. This power was extremely terrifying. It was much stronger than the Sword Yuan of his 7th stage of the Primordial Sword Origin technique. And this was only the 5th stage. If it was the same 7th stage, who knew how many times stronger it would be? It was unimaginable. This was also the reason why the Primordial Sword Origin technique was inferior to the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique. The Primordial Sword Origin technique was created by himself and was closely related to him. As his vision and accumulation continued to increase, the Primordial Sword Origin technique could also continue to grow and improve. As for the Divine Fiend Azura battle technique, it was a powerful inheritance of the ancient fiend god race in the universe. Although he wasn't sure how strong the ancient fiend god race was, it was definitely not weak. The next time he came to the Eternal Battle Fort, he would read up on the record. Now, his original body's top sword intent had evolved into a supreme sword intent. Its power had increased greatly, and its battle strength had soared. His doppelganger had formed the flower of extreme realm, and its battle strength had also increased greatly. If they worked together, perhaps they could try to destroy the Ghost Mother Tree. In the next moment, Chen Zong and Chen Xiu disappeared from Bewildering Light Island. Using it as a transit point, they appeared in the boundary of Grand Luo City and directly appeared in Ghost City. The entire Ghost City was empty. There was only a huge Ghost Mother Tree that was 1,000 meters tall standing, with thousands of branches hanging down. Balls of Ghost Mother Tree hung on the branches, beating like a heart, letting out a dull sound that reverberated in the empty Ghost City. It was extremely terrifying. Last time, his attack couldn't break through the Ghost Mother Tree's defense. What about this time? Strike. There was no need for a sword. He only needed to activate the Heart Sword intent and condense it into a solid form. Its strength had reached the level of a demigod artifact. It was even at the level of a top demigod artifact. It was extremely hard. This time, Chen Zong directly used the third move of the Heart Sword intent, Infinite Heart Extinguishment. This was blocked by the Heart Sword intent, which was second only to the Lifeless Vacuum Strike. A black light flashed, and a black light immediately covered the Ghost Mother Tree, blocking Chen Zong's attack. But in the next moment it was torn apart and slashed on the tree trunk, leaving a shallow sword mark that was a few meters long. It was very faint, and it quickly disappeared. As if enraged, the Ghost Mother Tree suddenly trembled. The scars on the tree twisted, and it opened its black mouth, letting out a sharp and resounding cry. That cry was as sharp as a blade, tearing through the void and rushing towards Chen Zong. This time, Chen Zong didn't dodge. Instead, he chose to take it head-on. The transformation of the sword intent also brought about a more stable spirit sea and an improvement of his will. What's more, the surface of his soul was rippling with a layer of 9-colored brilliance, which was faintly discernible. It was a layer of protection. The previous scream couldn't even defeat him directly, let alone now. Facing the Ghost Mother Tree's shriek head-on, Chen Zong's Divine Sea rippled, as if it was about to collapse. However, his Divine Sea, which had been strengthened by more than 2 times, managed to withstand the attack. As for his soul, the 9-colored brilliance rippled slightly, completely resisting the impact of the scream. When his will was attacked, it felt as if it was about to collapse. It made Chen Zong feel a tearing pain, but it was still within his tolerance range. Chen Zong even found that his will was strengthening bit by bit as he resisted the scream. Sharpening his will. The scream of the Ghost Mother Tree could actually sharpen his will. The 3 flowers were the 3 flowers of essence, qi, and spirit. The will was the most important part of the flower of God. Then, he would enrage the Ghost Mother Tree and use its scream to sharpen his will. Not only Chen Zong, but also Chen Xiu. He used the scream of the Ghost Mother Tree to sharpen his will. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.